Where are you going? Oh, I'm sorry, my son just came. Huh? Oh, okay, cool. I sent you the, yeah, I did. Cool. My son's going to a football game. So, let me just bring, Kirk up to speak. And let's see if that works. Hi, Rutrell, how you doing? I hope it works. It doesn't seem like it. Maybe we just have to be patient. Okay, we see, where is my dear? Okay, here she is. Okay, perfect. That seemed to have worked out. Wonderful.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you guys?
We are doing well.
Awesome. Hey Kirk.
Hi, Morgan. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Alistair. And also, hello, Roro.
Hi, Roro. Good to see you guys as always.
Good to see you too, Morgan.
Thank you.
I'm over here mashing buttons and trying to break things. You know,
Nice.
the usual.
Always the good stuff. The good stuff. Sherry, you ready to hear my real quick crypto drama?
Tell us all about it.
Okay, so I told you we created the meme coin on Tron, and we have an imposter now. So we must be doing something right. So when we signed up to, well, when Dave signed up to start the coin on Sun Pump dot whatever dot meme, he didn't have any socials yet because he didn't reach out to me yet. So he had no website, he had no Twitter, nothing. He was just creating the coin, obviously assuming that you would be able to update that later. Well, when we dropped the website and we made the Twitter account, he couldn't figure out where the hell to update the socials. So we never got to do it. And I've been trying to reach out to Sun Pump and whoever and going in their Discord and just tweeting them and everything and sending them messages. And nobody gets back to us. So we still haven't updated our socials. But we found out today that somebody took our art, our website, our Twitter page, and created the exact meme coin that we did. So,
now that's
yeah.
And
So
now
when somebody goes to look for us, if they don't have the correct, like if they don't have the correct CA, or if they don't like go through our website or anything, and they just go through like the Sun Pump shit, there's a possibility they could accidentally buy into theirs because it looks the exact fucking same.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
You know, it seems like there's an organization out of Silicon Valley or a number of groups that are doing this. Like they're literally cloning people's projects and then going out and pursuing grants and funding.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was taking a sip of a drink. Oh my god.
That's crazy. What are you guys going to do? You can't really do much, right?
So we made a big tweet. We're trying to get as many people to repost as they can, hopefully get some eyes on it from the company and from, their partners or whoever else. So, because nobody is like answering me. It's crazy. And any of the spaces that I even try to go up and speak in, they've got like, their set meme coin projects that they let up. So they never let me up to talk. So, yeah. But
that's crazy. Yeah, that's really crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah, somebody that was trying to buy ours went to theirs and bought instead, and they're at like a 5K market cap and barely any buys, but still they've got our website, our Twitter page. I'm like, I created that shit.
Yeah, you can't even, that's the thing, right? You can't even protect yourself from that. And that's where I
Yeah.
personally believe that Web3 can definitely help out here because, you know, it's,
Yeah.
you have some code, something behind it where you can say, hey, this is it, that's not it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah. I
man.
mean, and I can prove that I host the website. I have everything to
Exactly.
prove that.
NFTs.
Yeah.
NFTs. That's where
Yeah.
NFTs kick in. It's okay. It can be a nice JPEG. Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You can style it and make it nice, but at the end of the day, it's what is an NFT, and that's what many don't understand. That's proof of
Yeah.
ownership. That's what
Yep.
it is. It's proof of ownership. Yep. So this is why I mean, I'm not saying that Web3 is perfect, right?
Oh,
But
not at all.
if you think about all of these things on X in the Web2, everybody can copy one another without any, I mean, it can happen. And what are you going to do about it? What if someone creates yeah, and starts, okay, maybe there's something might happen if they start to talk shit about you, but at the end of the day, if you have Sam Altman or Elon, they have millions and millions of imposters. They can't really do anything about it. They can delete them, but new
Of
ones
course.
will come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, but shout out to Mimi down there, and it's so good to see Chris in here. Do you guys, Sharon? I tagged you on one of Chris's picture, one of his videos. Chris is out of the whole crew. Chris is my favorite. Chris is my absolute favorite. He took the time to show me some cool shit in Comfy and try to help me figure out some stuff, and he's just awesome. So it's really good to see you in here, Chris. And I absolutely love what you do. You know that. And Kirk and Sharon do spaces on Sundays with Comfy. So I was like, you gotta see Chris and Purrs and, and Tyler and all those other cool people. So
Super cool. I started with it 4 weeks ago, so I'm really a beginner. I am so open. I want to learn everything about it. Kirk has been working with it a little bit longer than I have, so he is helping me a lot to understand everything. It's fascinating. I don't even want to do anything else. All I want to do is Comfy because it's just so powerful, and I'm super fascinated by it. So I am happy that is part of us and that we're doing that. So it's really cool. It's awesome.
I can't wait. Maybe it was I don't know if it was just popping in for a minute, but I can't wait to like go in the Discord with you and like sit
Yeah, we
down
need
with
to
you.
do that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's so
Well,
much.
do they do it live then on Discord or?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's
Yeah. So
cool.
you just
That's awesome.
and most of them are like there's like at least two. Oh, there's like always two in there, but if not, there's like five, six. But they're all of them are sharing their screen at the same time, and you can pick which one that you want to pull up like closer, to see. But or you could just keep it where you could see all their screens and see all the different creations that they're doing. It's so cool.
That's awesome. Well, I was watching the Civet Eye thing, but I didn't have time to dive deeper. I do want to maybe after the space, if Kirk has time, just to check in and see what we're going to do on Sunday. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. I love it. Yeah, so Alisher, how are you doing, friend? I have a problem with, I don't know, I can't, oh no, you don't even have it on Innovators Think Tank, right? You just have the stream up here on X?
No, it's there. Let me double check.
Let me refresh, let me see.
Yeah, it's all there.
Next space, Wednesday, 28th. I don't know what's wrong with, I probably have to refresh this whole thing. So what are, did you see what I tagged you in 11, oh man, I forgot his name. Levels IO, there we go.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So it's just interesting because the reason why I tagged you is it's good research for us, right? So he was basically saying because he had a mindful app. He had what was it called, therapy.io or something like that. And he said that usage went down. What he added there is he said that most people seem to be fine with the basic bots, with all the bigger LLMs that we are prompting every day, that seems to be enough for them. And that's why he assumes that usage went down. He added to that his thing wasn't that complex though, right? And he said more work probably would need to be put into it in order for it to work. So I thought that was just something interesting for us. I mean, what we're doing here is not anything that is really serious. I mean, we're building what we're building because we want to learn, right? It's not like, oh, we plan to do this, this mindful thing. It just happened to come into being, right? But if we think about it, right, if we can definitely make an app that is a little bit more holistic and definitely different than the basic LLMs that people are prompting, right? With a goal, with really true interaction. I mean, we're already starting to do this with the journal and all of this. I think that we could definitely find people that want to use it, I'm guessing, right? I mean, this is just a fun project. This is nothing serious, but hey, who knows? Because to be honest, we have a lot of people that do need guidance in life, right? I mean, that's just a fact. It's not based on any, it's really
Absolutely.
a fact. And
All of
so
us do in some way.
I think we could use our project as a little research thing, to kind of get a feeling for what people are into, what they like. So I'm super excited for this project here.
Yeah, another thing is our project is open source. So in comparison, we're giving this away for free. And we're also giving away the source code for free. So you're able to build this yourself if you want to. You can get all the ENVs for yourself and run this for free.
Which is super awesome, right? This is cool because this could start something, you know what I mean? That people really start to get a little bit deeper into it and figure out what is it that people would need, to get them. Yeah, it's, I like it. It's really cool. And I also, the system prompt, I think that's also going to be interesting to see how far we can go with system prompting. I think that's definitely an interesting topic to dive into because, prompting, system prompting, really to get the LLM to behave the way you want it to. I think that's just a very important topic, especially when it comes to building agents and stuff, right? Which is going to be something that we need to consider looking into the future. I mean, not everybody has to do it, but we just have to keep in mind that if we do, we have a lot of power in our hands, right? And then we don't have to rely on all the big ones to help us out here, because then we have the power ourselves. So that's definitely a fascinating, it's important. So I'm looking forward to this. Do you have any clear plans what we're going to do today, Alisher?
I was thinking we could just continue and focus on the style of the app, get some of the logos in, get the icon in. I see these logos that you have from last week here, so we'll select one of these, and then maybe we can put this up somewhere. Maybe we can make it live.
Okay, that's cool. That's a good idea, so that we can really test it, because I think that's a good idea, because then we can all test it and see where flaws are, right? And see where we can get better, especially with the system prompt. And also, the journaling part, the thing is, it would be really cool if we could have something that directs the user a bit more, right? So that the user doesn't feel lost, that the user has a little bit of a plan. Now that can either just be in form of in form of
Like
some
text
little schedule. Exactly. Yeah, go ahead, Morgan, go ahead.
I was going to say just even like just instructions when you see like our main screen, how we had the two buttons, because one was for the therapist, the other was for the scientist. But then I feel like we were changing that for the journaling part, but maybe just having written out, like what it is, the instructions, or
That's a very good idea.
guidance.
Exactly. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I was thinking we could kind of put that all in the system prompt, but that's going to be hard to do, I guess. I think we have to separate it, like you said, Morgan, that we have a clear how to, right? How to use this app. And basically, maybe beside the journaling, that we have something like a diary that the person, I mean, I don't know if that now makes sense, right? Because if you have the journaling, that you might have just a daily thing so that you have, let's say, a calendar. Let's say we integrate a calendar, right? And that calendar has more text field so that a person can really write down what the person did on that day. I don't know if it makes sense. We can make, I don't know if we should use the journaling thing for that and just make that a little bit more distinctive. I don't know if DeepGram allows us to really do like daily, and have instructions maybe for every day, right? So if we have a calendar, we could maybe give the user a calendar that has instructions within the calendar. So today is Monday, you got to do this, 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 and this, so that they have a plan. When should they interact? I mean, they can interact with the bot whenever they want, but they can do a more targeted, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm while you're talking and saying it, I'm trying to like close my eyes and picture going into it. You know what I mean? Like as the user,
Yeah.
and being like, okay, so what makes sense? But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah. And I think it's good.
Yeah, I think, Alisha, we need to definitely test it. I'm not sure. I have to look into, so the journal is just a basic journal, right? You can't really put a date. Well, I mean, you could probably put your date in, but say it again.
It's going to date it automatically.
Okay, that goes automatically. I'm wondering, right, if we could maybe, with code, if that makes sense or not, we'll see if that makes sense. With code, add something to the date, that we add a text field, you know what I mean, that then gives instructions. I just don't know if that makes sense, because at the end of the day, it is a repetitive process. I think the person should get kind of, repeat certain things over and over and over again, right? So every Monday is this, every Tuesday I do this, every Wednesday I do that, and Thursday and Friday and Saturday, Sunday and Monday. And Sundays I have a day off. I don't have to speak with my life coach. I don't know. I think that maybe we could put a text field in, because it would just repeat itself, maybe. I don't know. Just some ideas. Because I think if it's more like, it has a clear structure on what the person needs to be doing, I think the person will feel more comfortable, because when a person goes to Claude or GPT, there are no instructions. It just goes off and starts to talk, right?
Right.
And there's absolutely no instructions there, but I think if the person would have clear instructions on what to do, it would probably be more interesting for the person. I don't know.
So maybe we just make another button that then leads to text with instructions.
Maybe, yeah. And then
Hey,
these,
Alex.
what? Yeah. Hi, Alex. You know what? And we have group quest or group queen. Hi, group queen. How you doing? Yeah, we can also. The beauty is with that can be changed. These instructions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Change
And I
these.
apologize. I didn't see Group Queen. Sorry, Group Queen. Didn't mean to exclude you there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we can make something where it has like an initial flow, right? Because typically when you log into any sort of app, even if it's an app, there's some sort of an onboarding flow where it's gonna, ask you, for example, if you go and sign up for a fresh account in Pixio, it asks you to put like an organization name. So here maybe we could do something where we make it a little more personable and you put in your name.
Oh, yeah.
And then throughout the app, whenever the AI talks to you, you can, recall the name, and it's always going to refer to you by your name. And then in terms of the calendar, I think we can do something. And think we can add another button and have some sort of an AI generated schedule, kind of, right? Of what to do Monday through whatever.
What about
Monday
an
through
alarm?
Sunday.
Take your crazy pills. Take your crazy pills. No, I'm kidding. Don't
Kirk,
forget to take your crazy pills.
right? Don't forget. Yeah, because I think, I think that's what's missing, right? That's why people might not be interested in using a therapy bot, because if it's no different than Claude, why should I even, why should I interact with it? So I think we can probably do a lot there. And I don't know, Kirk, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, if you have a really good system prompt for your agent, then it will be different than Claude, and also it will use any of the documentation that you've supplied as part of the sub prompting, right? So it's effectively like you're sort of fine tuning your agent. So it ends up making your agents faster and more efficient, and actually covers the topic more effectively than what Claude would kind of wander around and do on its own.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. How deep can we go into the system prompt? How deep can we fine tune it? Also that I think that's something that we can all think about. That could be maybe our homework if we, want to take a moment, if we have time next week, to figure out what instructions we could give our bot to function in a way, right? And then bring these thoughts together. I think that's a good idea if we can all think about the system prompt, because when you go in Visual Studio Code, we all have access to the system prompt as it is right now. And then we can just copy that and put it in our wherever we want to put it, and then just think about it. How can we refine that system prompt a bit better to have a more distinctive therapist or life coach or friend or buddy or whatever you want to call it? It can be all kinds of things, what you want to call it. I think that's a good idea, because the system prompt definitely needs to be changed. It needs to be refined. And then we can come back and talk about that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and another thing is the system prompt. I think what we did last week is it already takes into account the journal entries. So whatever you write in the journal / diary, the system prompt is going to know about. So whenever you're chatting to the AI, it takes that into account. So I guess that's one step towards fine tuning that, is bringing in the information from the journals.
Did I miss that? Did we already change the system prompt so that
We changed it ever so slightly. We added like one line to it.
I missed that. I was so into this logo stuff and whatever else I was trying to prepare.
We had discussed it, Cher, definitely how we wanted to integrate that into it, so that the therapist could actually respond about situations that were written into the journal and stuff like that. But yeah.
Right. So that increases the interactivity. So that the more the user has the ability to fine tune with their engagement, then the better the agent is. So it's,
of course,
yeah. And then you can put that into promotional material.
Sorry, Kirk.
Go ahead,
Maureen.
Maureen.
I was just trying to. I know Group Queen was new, so I just wanted to tell her about the live stream up at the top. And I don't know if Alex has ever come in with us for these ones. So we do have a live stream up at the top, so you can see what we're building. We were building with Flutter, doing a therapist. We've been doing this for a bunch of weeks, so yeah, we're pretty far into it. But feel free to come up and talk and hang out with us, ask any questions. Sorry, Cher.
And if you're actually interested in building this app is there's a link on Innovators Think Tank directly to the GitHub, where you can get all the source code, and as long as you have VS Code and Flutter, you can get started right away.
This is such an awesome project. Yeah, I just want you all to know, right? And I also have a newsletter to explain really what we have went through so far. So you can definitely check that out too. So also, there is a, the link is in there too. So you guys can basically, if you have Visual Studio Code on your computer, and if you pulled, you know, if you have a Git also, if you're using Windows, and you know, if not, how was that again with iOS users? So if
You need Xcode.
you need Xcode, definitely. But that's what I don't understand. So if we, yeah, you need Xcode. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. No, but if I would just, let's say I don't even, yeah. What if I would want to go, no, I can't do anything without Xcode, nothing. I cannot deploy anything without Xcode, even if it is a browser-based something.
Yeah, because Xcode has get. So you need Xcode just for get.
Oh, I was about, okay, that's what I was getting at. So
For the Mac.
yeah, if you're using iOS, you need to pull Xcode because Xcode has Git. If you guys have any questions, you guys can DM me anytime. So did you put the link up, right? So yeah, Alisher has the project. No, it's on Innovators Think Tank. There we go. Yeah. And you can pull the project there and just run it on your Visual Studio Code, and then you guys can basically code along with us. That's definitely possible. So let me see, we have a request. Let me go ahead. There we go, Alex. Hi. That's cool to have you up here.
Hey, Alex.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm more like, it's very late for me. I'm more like in a watching and chilling mood, but I definitely wanted to say hello.
Yeah, that's cool, Alex. I hope you're well. Has it been a busy day for you today?
I was traveling a little bit, just in the city. Yeah, a little tired, you know. I'm here to learn, really. I'm not much of a builder. I work with people who do what you guys do sometimes. I'm more of a conceptual guy when it comes to this kind of stuff. We have built agents, but I'm like, for some reason, these programmers need somebody to point out the logic sometimes of it. So I have like conceptual ideas, and they kind of do what you guys do.
Yep.
But I want to learn too.
That's when all minds come together, of course, right? You definitely need that, right? You need someone that can really, you know, do that. Everybody has a role to play. That's so true. That's so true.
I had one thought to your question earlier, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like when you build an agent like that, right? Like what can it do that Claude cannot do, right? That is a big question, and I've seen many companies and like SaaS projects fail on that one. Because of course, if you instruct your LLM good, then it can do a lot of stuff, right? So I would think on those lines, like, yeah, what can Claude not do, right? For example, one thing we have done with something like that is you can kind of give a thing like that memory, right? At the end of every session, you make it summarize the entire session, save it in a database. Next time, it can read about it. Things like that, right? Is where I would start thinking along those lines.
That's a good idea. Isn't this, didn't Claude bring out this caching, the caching possibility? Isn't that something like that? Because I know that because I
haven't
know
used
that
Claude in a while. So that might be a thing that it can do now, but just like as an idea.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good idea. That's something that we definitely need to consider, memory, right? I'm thinking that we can kind of combine that with the journaling, right? That the person then should do. If the person doesn't do it, well, then we can't help the person. But with the journaling, that is kind of, because it would be cool if after every talk, right, that the person could, you know, just give its thoughts or whatever, right, into the journal, which it has voice capabilities. So you don't even have to write, you can just speak. What was your experience, you know, today with your chat bot, right? I think that's super interesting. And then if the chat bot can then refer back to that entry that was made on that day, I think that's a really good kind of memory thing, right? Of course, having the chatbot remember its own talk, that could possibly be something that's interesting too. I know that ChatGPT, OpenAI, they have this memory thing, right? I think they have that capability, and I'm guessing that this caching thing, maybe Alicia can speak on that, is definitely something that Claude can do now too. I'm not sure, Alicia. Yeah.
I know that just from building the meme coin, because we're building this story and we come back every night and we need to have Junie, which is Dave's AI, which is open AI, and he needs it to basically do a recap of the whole entire story, and it needs to remember everything, that we went over the night before that, just so we could get people up to speed. So yeah, that's definitely something that I should do.
So for me, it's just always a prompt. I usually, I have everything on my computer. I don't always delete my chats. And then when I go back to the chat window, right, if I open that specific chat, I just said, based on all the information that has been shared in this chat, give me a short summary that we can pick up from there. And it doesn't matter what LLM I talk to, they all do a good job with that. So that's also how you can just trigger that little memory thing, because then I don't know what happens in the back end if it just reads through the chat and then tells me, I don't know. So Alicia, I'm not sure if you have any information on this the caching capabilities that Claude now has.
Yeah, so the thing about caching is, and the way OpenAI does it in Claude, is you're only really going to use it within this one conversation, right? So kind of just like Plus. Plus has, for whatever model there is. For example, right now I'm using Cloud 3.5 Sonnet. The only thing it's really going to help you with is caching this specific conversation. The data between conversations doesn't really move. Like, I can't really go to OpenAI and be like, hey, remember this conversation from 3 weeks ago? It's not really going to understand that if it's in a new conversation, right? Caching, I guess, is just a better way of doing RAG. But we can do it as well. We can do it essentially the same way Plus does it, and we can just do different chats as well.
I didn't even think of that. So when Dave does that, he probably just leaves the same chat open and just goes back to that one to retell the rest of the story. Sorry.
Yeah, the good thing about OpenAI, like GPT, OpenAI, is that that conversation never ends. Like, you're limited on how big your message is, but the conversation itself never ends. Although it does eventually start to cycle and forget some of the earlier stuff you talked to it about.
That's the case. I have had that issue a couple of times. If the conversation is too long, it has issues. GPT-4 is really very good at it, and I would go as far as saying that it's the best when it comes to that, at least just my experience. But it does tend to forget. If the conversation is too long, then it usually just goes to the last couple of conversations, right? Doesn't pull everything.
It's been really good with our story, though. Not to keep bringing up the story, but I mean, the weird thing is, and I feel like, because this shit is developing all the time and quicker than we could ever imagine. But it was last night when we were having it tell a part of the story, it actually brought in a specific name that was never ever brought up, and it was Bread, who is one of Dave's co-hosts from his other space. So I mean, as this is developing, though, possibly maybe in the near future it will be able to recognize the other conversations, because honestly, when you're just asking somebody for a character in a book and they give you somebody like, oh, it was Bread, he's been around all the time, and you're like, where do you get Bread from? But Bread is definitely somebody that Dave talks about a lot because he's his co-host in an altcoin space, but that's a total different conversation. So maybe.
It's super strange. Now, let me tell you guys something. I'm not sure if we covered that last week. So I pulled a summary because StreamYard is perfect with that. You can pull a transcript from the space. So that, or from the live stream. So I pulled it, right? And I ran it through the summary because I just wanted to have a little, just a little reminder of what we did, because I was writing the newsletter. So Now, what this summary did, it pulled, I don't even know if we talked about it. Maybe I just missed it, but I was kind of surprised because it did from step one. So basically the summary that I have from the last space, from the last live recording, is a summary of everything we have done so far with Flutter. Did
Not
we
just the one day.
Yeah, did we talk about that last week? Did we do a recap on what we did as a whole?
There's times sometimes when people come in the room and we mention like, oh, we've been doing this for 5 weeks or so, you know what I mean? So maybe like little snippets of that, but I don't feel that like we did, like an exact prompt on that or anything.
It's super interesting. Let me share with you guys what let me see. So where is it? AI Builder Summary. So it's just super sweet the way it also summarized it. Okay, what the heck?
Summarization is really the hidden power, I feel like. So we recycle chat sessions a lot and work with those summaries, right? And we tend to think it works better after it because it's more precise, right? Synthetic data. This is why it's so cool. So we cycle our agents a lot. It makes them permanently go into new sessions because, as you say, the longer the session goes, the more confused they will get, right? They're more precise if they are just fresh out of the gate with a little summary.
Yeah. I was just super fascinated how good of a job it did. And I always tell it, keep it, don't overdo it, right? Oh, my computer's not responding to me. Hey, what's going on?
Okay, good. There's some new people in the room. Just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a live stream up at the top, so you can join in on it and see what we're building.
Yeah, I can't pull it up right now. My computer is buggy. Oh no, here it is. Okay, so let me just, it really did a great job. I think it was GPT that did the summary for me. So, wait a minute, I generated blah, 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 blah. Darn it, where is it? Well, you guys, I'll figure it out. I'll look for it. Okay, we have row up.
Hey,
Howdy, howdy. So when it's doing the summary, so you've got two things going on. You have the whole audio of the space, and then we have the whole live of what we're looking at. And then what Alistair's probably putting in AI Tutor, getting those kind of screenshots. So does it pick up both for the summary or just what's verbally spoken?
Text. It doesn't have vision, so I think text, right? Did we just lose Alistair? Alistair, do you have an answer?
I'm here. What was the question? Sorry, I was I was trying to fix the homepage. But what was the question, Ro?
Oh, I think I know the answer, but I just figured I'd throw it out there. So we're talking about summarizing all this stuff. I mean, so we have the audio of this whole space, right? And then we also have your screenshot, and all the nuggets and the good stuff is in the video, and you going through AI Tutor, how to do it, and putting the code here, etc. Is it also taking a summary of like, the code is this or put that there?
Check this out. I'm going to show you something because we use StreamYard as of last week. And StreamYard, what's good about StreamYard is you see all the sharing streams here. But let's say here's the stream of our Idea to Impact, the Wednesday stream. When I go to this, I can actually download a transcript. So this is what Sharon was talking about is you can download this text transcript and then give it to the AI and get a summary.
Okay, so it's okay. That's the input. Okay, that makes sense now. Thank you.
Let's take a look. Okay, yeah, this is literally just a giant blog of text of everything, every single word that was said in those 3 hours. And I think Morgan is right that a lot of times during these spaces we do recap a lot. So it probably was able to pick that up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
think of how many times I'm always saying, hey guys, when somebody new comes in the room and mention what we are building. So it probably, which is probably a
And
good thing.
what's it
also.
called? Stream what?
StreamYard.
StreamYard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really a great tool, but it's expensive. Really have to want to use that on a regular basis.
I think it's like $40 a month.
Yeah. So that's something that you definitely want to take into account. You're not going to get all of those, those special features, I guess, with, do you have everything if you use it for free?
You don't get, I don't think you get as much storage, and you don't get 1080p streaming. And here's my Twitch, by the way, because I'm streaming to my Twitch right now. And I don't think I get a transcript here. Yeah, no. I don't get anything here besides the video itself. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's a cool tool. I mean, if you really live stream a lot, it's a good tool. It definitely is. It is. Also, I mean, live streaming with, I have a little trick, and I'll share this with you guys. This is a great trick. So now I usually, if I don't have screen share or anything, I don't basically need StreamYard, right? If I'm on a stream all by myself, I can use OBS. It's for free. It's a complex tool because it has a lot of features, right? DJs and all kinds of stuff, because you can have interface, virtual interfaces and everything integrated. It's really a powerful tool. And so now if you have a stream, right? And it doesn't matter what you're streaming, you have a video. Most of us have a YouTube account. So what you do, you take your video, you upload it to YouTube. You can put it as unlisted. I don't know if it would work if it's private, but you can put it as unlisted. So there are many YouTube free transcript tools out there. And you grab one of those tools, you take your YouTube link, you paste it in there, and you get a transcript. So that's how you can do it.
That's a good trick.
It's a
That's
very
a good trick.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, what you could also do is you could upload your video to YouTube, and you can go to aistudio.google.com and link it in your conversation when you're talking to the AI.
Exactly. So
Oh,
that's the way, yes. Now you can set your OBS with a small screen with your face on it. You can paste that screen on top of the computer screen. It's just not as seamless if you were with many people on a stream. You don't have that comment stuff, right, where you can pull up a comment that someone puts in the comment section and all of that. That you won't have. But it is for free. I just want to put that out there. So if you're like, man, I want to start streaming, and you're just doing yourself, you can set your OBS up perfectly. You can have that, screen recorded with whatever screen recorder you have. Most of the computers have a free one, and then you just upload it to YouTube and pull your transcript, which is super easy. And then you use a free transcription YouTube thing, or you go into Google, as Alisher said, and there you go. You have it. That's perfect. That's a good alternative.
That's the money. Thank you. I didn't mean to derail us. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, but these are good tips, right? Because I just figured it out for myself. I'm like, darn it, I got my YouTube. I can pull up any video I want, right? You're not going to put it up publicly because, I mean, the screen is ugly. It's, whatever your screen, you're doing your whole screen while, and that's how you can do it, right? If you want to transcribe a space, that's how you do it. You don't need to use anyone's tool. Of course, all of these tools that the people have beautiful visuals, right? So they're nice. But if you're like, I don't even want that, I just need the transcription, and I just need to transcribe it and pull in so that I have something that I can give to the LLM, and that's it. That's what you do. Costs $0.
I love it.
Cool.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
If there's a will, there's a way, man. There's always a way. Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're paying so much already. I mean, look at all the subscriptions we have. I mean, seriously. I mean, have you ever in your life had so many subscriptions? I mean, back in the day, we would have Netflix, maybe what have you. It's a nightmare, isn't it? It is. And yeah, so that's a good alternative. I'm paying hundreds of dollars for my subscriptions at the moment. It's awful.
Yeah, I know it is. But that's a really good tip. And the visualization you can make yourself, right? Free tools like Canva is still for free, right? I think, and you can make beautiful visualizations. Just build yourself one template, and then you can do all the basic things.
Exactly. There are so many ways that you can do this for free. It's cool. But that's basically how I do it. I don't even worry about going to whatever tool and paying money. I just do it that way. It's just not as nice, but you can like Alex said, let's say you have your Adobe suite or you use Canva or so, you can make it nice. The only thing that, would be cool sometimes is to have that little wave thingy, right? But you can build that in After Effects, for example. It takes you 10 minutes to do if you have After Effects. I just canceled everything. I'm trying to figure. Tell me, Alex, how can you do it?
I do that with Canva as well now. I mean, I'm not using Canva, but you can do it with Canva. They have these little animation stickers, right? It's not a real waveform, but it looks like one. Doesn't matter. Just put that on there and like profile pictures, and it's good.
Yep. I'm thinking also about CapCut. CapCut you can use for free also. And I'm guessing, I have CapCut too, and Canva. You see, there we go. My numerous tools. But I use them every day, so I'm okay with paying money for them, and I don't think I'm going to give it up anytime soon. And CapCut only cost me $7, but you can use you can use Canva for free, you can use CapCut for free, and then you can make it nice, right? You can even, you can really make it nice. So there are ways to do it for free, for sure.
I always recommend that. If anybody thinks about doing anything, I would use the most less expensive software on the market and the most popular, the one everybody uses, because then you find tutorials and all of that for free. CapCut, by the way, CapCut is the best thing that happened to me in a long while. I used this old video software, and then people talked about CapCut, and I didn't want to, I thought like the TikTok people. But when I used it, it just gets things done. And I think today you just want to get things done, especially if you start with something. And then if it doesn't do what you want, well, then at least. And then you know how to ask the real questions and get what you need.
That's so true. That's
Sorry
so
for
true.
my rant.
No, that's true. Look, I was using Premiere. So first of all, I know that professional people will never say, well, let me do CapCut instead of Premiere, because Premiere is a very sophisticated tool and it has a lot of power. But me as a beginner, I mean, I used Premiere 2 years, 3 years, I would say max 4 years. I still had trouble. And the thing is, it doesn't have as many presets as CapCut. So you're going to have to pay extra money on top of your subscriptions. You don't have that with CapCut. But of course, you're a little bit limited, right? Because I guess that the presets that you use in Premiere Pro, you can tweak them whichever way you want. You're limited within CapCut. But for all the things that I do, I'm like, I don't really need Premiere anymore. And After Effects, I don't even want to start with After Effects, right? It's a powerful tool, right? The compositing, right? The way you do it, CapCut can't do that, but it's not easy to learn, right? If someone really uses it every day, then you probably want to learn it, right? Even the animators out there, they use AI, but they still use After Effects to really make it very cool. And it's powerful, but it's hard to learn all of that, especially if you're learning all these AI tools. But if you come into the field and you know After Effects, well, then that's going to be really cool. But if you got to learn that alongside everything else, it can be a headache sometimes.
Yeah, it really depends on what you want to do. So if you want to do something quick and get a pretty high quality result, I would say go with Canva or CapCut. But if you're trying to do something that's like industry level, then you probably want to go with After Effects. After Effects is great because it lets you do 3D stuff. It lets you do complex animations, complex transitions. But yeah, it's not very user friendly. It's just overall um, very heavy as well. Like Canva is web based. You can't beat a web based tool because that's available on your phone. That's available on a Chromebook, iPad. You're not gonna get After Effects on an iPad. Um, kind
You
of
can
like
forget
a heavy device.
that. Yep, you can forget that. How often, even though I have my son's old gaming computer, you know how often my computer crashed because of After Effects?
But it's not even that. For example, I have a pretty good computer. I have like top of the line AMD spec, but the problem is it's AMD. So a lot of times when I try to render an After Effects video, it's just slow.
It
You
is.
can't use my GPU for some reason.
Yep, yep. I hope I was about to say, Morgan. Yeah, I think she has trouble coming back up. I invited her back, but seems to not be working. Well, okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, this is just awesome. Also, we should do a space on this, sharing our tools and how we do our stuff. I think that would be, I mean, if people are willing to share, but I'm totally open to sharing all. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing the streams almost every day, right? Because I just share what I do because I think it can inspire people, or people can give me feedback. Well, Sharon, there's an easier way to do it. Why don't you do it like this? I think this is cool, right? To share how we do our stuff, and just share ideas with one another. So I was happy to share this YouTube trick with you guys because it's awesome. And if you use that with OBS, you're really not paying a dime. You just have to set it up. And OBS is also heavy, but it's not as heavy as After Effects, right? But it is a strong. It's very powerful. OBS is really powerful. So if you're ever thinking about going, I mean, StreamYard can do that, right? So you can have your screen audio, because a lot of people are asking those questions too. What do you do if you play music? A lot of people have that question. How do you do it, right? If you want to talk and you want to have music, and if you want to switch between the two, how do you set that up? A lot of people have that question because people want to play music in a space. And I mean, the easiest way to do that, if you have an alt account. I mean, yeah, Kirk, don't you do it that way? You just have your alt account and you put the music on that one. And yeah, maybe you want to tell us how you do that, because that's what you do when you do the streaming, the music streaming, right? I don't know if he's here. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, maybe he's just not there at the
What was it?
moment.
Did you ask me something? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I did. No, you're fine. You're fine. A lot of people are asking the question because they want to play music in their space. How do you do that? Because I know that you have a workflow, how you do it.
Yeah, it's you just with X, you just set up. You have to have your premium account. That's first requirement, and then it's RTMP. So you're going in and setting up in the producer section. Um, the first thing is getting a stream key for the profile that you're doing work with, and then that stream key is what you put into OBS Studio, and from there you can then stream from your local system into X. So that's how that's the really short version of how to do it. There are some tutorials that are available on streaming on X, and those would directly apply. From there, it's just like anything that you have within the system, OBS Studio usually is able to pick it up, whether it be application or just generally, streaming your screen. And
How would how would you do it?
go
Yeah.
ahead.
How would you do it with music? Let's say you want to go in a space, right? And you want to have some music going on. Do you do that with an alt account, or do you just do that with OBS where you just switch?
Oh,
How do
that's,
you do that?
if you're doing it in an audio space, it's just a matter of, bring in your alt account and then have the alt account set up with the microphone on the computer looped back into the audio space. And then if you set up two browsers, one browser is the browser that is sending into the space, and the other browser is queuing up, your music library wherever that may be. Or you could literally just have, a second, like a audio, music player. But you want to make sure that the first, the browser that you're using, that you are muting that browser. The one that's actually connected to the audio space, because you don't want to hear the audio coming back out, because it'll loop it back into the space, and that'll automatically cancel the sound. So once you do that, then you should have pretty high fidelity stereo music. Just gotta mix your levels appropriately for the space.
Yep. So alt account is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, you can do it through your primary, but then you have to switch back and forth. And I mean, it's not impossible, but
I mean, you could do it
you
with
have to be.
OBS, for example, right? You could do that with OBS and just switch. You just need an interface somehow, right? You just need some interface that has two outputs or two inputs. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah, you could do it with OBS Studio as well. You just have to be able to. You've got to send the audio into the space. So you're basically whatever microphone output, or sorry, whatever main output needs to be routed into the browser that has the connection to the space. And then and you can, in Windows, you can go in and switch that setting independently for each browser window, so you can really make sure that it's like only routed to a single location. So I use Motu ADB interface, audio interface, which allows me to have the ability to loop back, but there's a lot of other options. Some systems already come with a virtual microphone, so as long as you have a virtualized microphone, X will allow you to launch a space without a microphone connected. Otherwise, you can't even go into a space or start a space in the web app without a microphone attached. So that's a thing to be aware of. But yeah, that's pretty much how you get music into a space, if that's what you want to do. And same thing, I kind of like the idea of having the music, running in a stream separate from the space, because it's kind of hard to have a conversation. The music doesn't really work like if you're playing music and the people are trying to talk. You won't hear people, or the music cuts out, one of the two. So there's a limited number of streams that you can have like going simultaneously. Like it's like when you have 2 or 3 people talking at once.
That's cool. So I just want to welcome everybody else that entered the space. You guys can come up and speak anytime. We have a live stream up, so you guys can watch Alisher's screen. What we're going to be doing today. So basically, we have a app that we're building. It is a mindful app, and we just came to the idea. It just happened through the numerous spaces that we had in the past. Flutter is a developer tool where you can build an app that can be, streamed on all screens, if it's a phone, if it's an iPad, if it's a computer, or even a TV screen, so that it looks good, right? So that's basically what we're using to build our app. And yeah, we are going to be playing with design today because we want to make it look nice. We had some talks about our system prompt. So basically our app has a chatbot. We have a journal feature. And we are looking to add some more features to make it a little bit more, how should we say, as a guide. Since it's a mindful app, we want the user to be guided through the app and just have more direction so that it knows what to do, and or the person knows, or the user knows what to do, so that it is just interesting and engaging. So yeah, one thing that we are going to be working on is refining our system prompt. Another thing that we're going to be working on is design, as I just said. And then lastly, we are going to think about some more features that we will be adding along the way. This project is open source. You can find it on GitHub. I think Alisher, we have a link at the top, the Innovators Think Tank. That's where you can A, find the stream, and B, you can also find a little summary of what we're doing today. And you can find the GitHub project. Yeah, there. You can pull that into your Visual Studio Code. I don't know, Alisher, if someone is using something else for coding, would that work too?
Yeah, that will work as well, as long
Okay.
as you're able to access the terminal. VS Code is really just the code editor for us in this case. There's not much else that we're really needed for here. And also, some updates while we were discussing and all that, I actually added the onboarding flow. So now there's there's a bit in the beginning where it kind of asks you for some of your information. So if I run this right now, you're going to see that it actually asks me for my name, my age, and my occupation. Three basic pieces of information that it might need.
Perfect. I like that. So with the journaling part, we want it to be a bit more interactive. So when the user speaks to the chatbot, right, and then goes to journaling, we want the chatbot to access the documentation or all the journaling so that it can, go into further talks with the user to get the user going. Because the problem is that we have with all these AI apps that are, there for therapy. I mean, I don't know all of them. Maybe there is really one out there that does the job. But I read a post from one of the guys that really builds a lot of tools, and he is shutting his therapy app down. I don't know, you guys probably all follow Levels, I always forget, Levels.io. What is his handle? Let me see. Levels.io, right? So, and he did a post a couple days back that he's shutting it down because user engagement went down. And the reason for that is that there is not much difference to speaking to Claude or speaking to GPT or Gemini or whatever LLM that you're talking to, right? So he said that it doesn't make any sense at this point to work on it because it would require a little bit more work, and and basically that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? So we are thinking about, we're just thinking about how to make this tool different than Claude and different than GPT and all the others, so that the user does feel compelled to use it. So yeah, that's basically, we're just doing really research and seeing what product we can make happen that might find, interest, for the public. We have a lot of people that just need guidance, right? That's why many people talk to LLMs in the first place, because they need guidance. And yeah, so this is going to be a fun project, right? I'm just really excited for this. This is fascinating to test the waters and see how far we can go and push the limits of AI and really make something useful for the public. I'm excited.
And I think another thing about that platform from levels.io really was just a system prompt with a GPT wrapper. There wasn't really much to it. It wasn't really a full-on app, right? It was just a website. It was pretty basic. Just had some Stripe integration, some chatting integration. But yeah, for us, we're gonna add some more features. We already have journals, so it already interacts with another API. It already interacts with DeepGram in order to get that text to speech, and then it also interacts with 11 Labs. So we even have like a spoken bot, a bot that actually talks to you.
Yep. So our bot speaks, and you don't have to use it because it is a little bit laggy. Not laggy, but it just takes a bit, right? Until the bot really responds. But I think the future will be a little bit faster, right? Inference, it will be a little bit faster. We're hoping for that. So we used 11 Labs with our voice, but you can use, there are other tools out there too. Neats AI, for example, is out there, and DeepGram has also its own voices, right? But we just didn't use it. There are many out there. And also
Yeah, the rest of them are kind of robotic. Like everything besides OpenAI and 11 Labs right now is a bit robotic.
Yeah. And OpenAI is cool, but we decided not to use OpenAI. Numerous reasons there. I don't want to go into all of them, but basically, we don't want to be locked, right? Because we're using a platform called OpenRouter, and it has access to numerous LLMs. So basically, the LLM that we have in our bot or in our app is a free one. So we're not really paying, for the API calls for this one. And it's fast. It's super. Which one are we using? Are we using Llama? What are we using actually, Alish?
We are using Mistral, looks like.
We're using Mistral. So because one thing that we have to keep in mind, right, is if you're the reason why we're doing all of this is to share with you guys possibilities on how to build your own app, right? That's the reason why we're here in the first place, right? And we're testing it with a real project so that we get also more of a feeling of how to do this and how to go about when problems come up and so on and so forth. So we're trying to make this as cheap as possible because you guys just have to keep something in mind. Every time a user uses it, there is an API call, right? So, and that needs to be paid for. Now, OpenAI seems to be very cheap with GPT-4o Mini, and with their voice, it's really just a fraction of what GPT-4 is. So that's definitely something if you guys are really into GPT-4, because these things are very capable and it's seamlessly and it's easy. But we want to ensure we want to keep the user data as private as we possibly can. And it is possible with OpenAI, but you're going to have to spend a lot of money. You're going to have to, I don't know, what was it, $100 or something? But those are just thoughts that we have along the process. How can we make it cheap? How can we make the data as secure as possible? Because if you think about when a user prompts a chatbot and it's private stuff, because it's more like therapy, it's mental stuff, the user might not want to have the data be read by anyone. So those are thoughts that also go into it, right? How can we make it as private as possible? How can we make it as cheap as possible? So those are things that need to be considered. If you really want to take this seriously, that's just very important because you don't want to have bills that go whatever, thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you look at the market and you see what people pay for subscriptions, you can't take $50 from a person just for the person to speak to a chatbot, for example. So those are many things to keep in mind. And let 11 Labs also, it costs money. So every time the user pings the voice, tokens are going to be used. So those are things that definitely have to be considered here. But that's what goes into your pricing. So if you're taking this serious and you really want to build an app from start to finish and put it on the market, you're just going to have to calculate and see if it's even feasible, right? So those are things that we just have to, that we're keeping in mind. And in these spaces, we talk about all of these things to just inform you, right? So that you're just aware of what it takes, right? To take it to that step not just building the tool, because most of the people are talking about, oh yeah, cool, I built a game here and I built this and built that, but they're not going through the whole process. You build something, but you have to deploy it. You have to make it so that whatever user can go to it, right? Can either look up it on the browser or click on an image and open the app, right? So those are things that we're going through. We're also, when we're done with this project, when we have it done, the app is finished, we are also going to go into deploying it. We have used Vercel in the past, which is for free, but there are other things that you need to consider. If you have a subscriber base, you're going to have to take money from them in some way. So you're going to have a payment gateway and all of those things. And we're discussing all of these things in these spaces. So you guys can learn a lot if you're into that, and you guys can share your thoughts, your ideas, also on the project itself to make it really nice. So this is complete building in public, open source, and we're just happy to have you guys here. I hope it didn't go on too long, but I just wanted to do a little update on what we're doing here. So sorry if that went too long for all of you, but just so you guys understand what we're doing here. Okay, back to you, Alisher.
Right. So far, we've got our onboarding, we've got our chatting, we've got our journal. So I guess now we could do some sort of a weekly schedule builder that will also use AI. And most likely we'll need to make it some sort of a conversation first, where the person is asked about their week. What does their week look like? What do they usually do? Is there any medication they take that they'd like to remember to take? And maybe they do some sort of meditation throughout the week. Maybe they want to have a time schedule for that. And then also we want to edit our theme a little bit, right? So I'm actually going to do the theme first. Editing the theme is easier. So looks like our logo, the logo that you provided, Sharon, it's a bit of a dark green. And I think that's what we're going to change it to. Right now it's just the basic Flutter purple. So typically your Flutter is going to start with either purple or blue. In this case, we have purple, so we'll change it up to be green and see what that looks like. And then we'll go into implementing this new feature. And to your point, yeah, so a lot of these things cost money. So 11 Labs is going to cost you per call. Deepgram is going to cost you per call, although they have a fairly generous free tier. They give you like 200,000 characters. And OpenRouter, luckily, OpenRouter has free models, and they update them every time. If you guys are following along with the stream, you'll notice I'm on OpenRouter right now, and I can go to browse. And they're also versatile, right? So let's say eventually you do want to use GPT. Well, GPT is here in OpenRouter already. Let's say you want to use Gemini. OpenRouter has all of them. For example, here's an interesting one. Llama 3 Soliloquy. I have no idea what this is. Jamba. I don't know any of these models.
I don't either. That's interesting.
Here's another Llama 3.1 Uriali. What in the world? What are these about? Maybe there's actually, oh, this one focuses on creative role play. So, hey, if you're building an app where, your AI is a dungeon master, let's say you're building a Dungeons and Dragons app, hey, this might be the AI for you. And
no, it's
actually
cool. Yeah,
pretty excited.
Sorry that I interrupt you now. So now this is super fascinating, because I was in, we have these Fridays Web3 spaces. Okay. So we were talking about gaming today. Imagine an app. This is fascinating, but this is so cool. These are the ideas that come about when we're in a space together. So, and people talk and they're like, oh gosh, I have an idea. So think about if you have a little, a chat bot that is kind of like a little role play gaming thing, and you're building a game, you can have a app that helps you generate games. You can have a image generator or a 3D whatever generator that can make game assets. So you could probably build an app that is specifically targeted to people that want to build games or build assets or build storylines to the game. This is super fascinating, actually. That's cool. I mean, look at
Yeah.
these models. Isn't that cool?
And what's cool, it's as easy as just changing one line of code to use a different model. That's all it is when it comes to Open Router. That's a
Yeah.
great thing about them. They have Claude 3.5 here as well. You know, probably one of the best coding AIs out there.
That's cool.
That's a topic I love, by the way, because I've played Dungeons and Dragons with it extensively. Also, in other, well, I always say Dungeons and Dragons. I use another universe actually, but it's the same thing. And they are really good at that. I thought about this, building an app, but I'm just not a builder like that. But I think it's like $1 million idea. I don't know. One
Yeah.
could even build the Dungeon and Dragon app maybe and sell it to Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if there's a possibility, but you can definitely build a machine that can master Dungeons and Dragons all day, I think. I have some ideas about that, but that can be done. I think that, like, you should have a traditional piece of software that probably should handle the character values, right? I feel like the one thing LLMs are still not really good at is like numbers for some reason. Like, I feel like the normal software should hold the numbers, like your character sheet and all of that, and maybe a little database of memory what happened. But then it's passed to the LLM when needed. So the actual dice rolling thing, I would still build like traditional software and then have the LLM just tell the stories, get the values from the app and pass them back. I think it could play forever like that.
Yes. I mean, think about this. I mean, we're here and I mean, there's so many people that are just, they don't want to waste their time. They want something that works well, that goes fast, and gives them what they need so that they can move on. So, we're just testing this all with our Mindful app, but you guys can just think this a little bit further. There are also, you could probably even build whatever, a medical app, because we have a Lava. I think there are cheaper visual models, right, that could look at scans, for example. There's so many ideas, and you're not touching any regulatory, because you can always say, hey, this is just for a second opinion, but you need to go to your doctor, right? You don't, but if you want to have a second opinion on your scans, you can run that through an app. There are so many possibilities because there are professionals that have medical chatbots. So if you go on Hugging Face, if you go on even Open Router, right? You go on LMs, there are so many models out there that we know absolutely nothing about. And that is definitely something to look into, because people have taken the time to fine tune these models with medical data, with all sorts of things. And that's just fascinating. And you can build an app for those things. You can just build an app to just help a person learn a little bit more about whatever, right? It's not that the LLM is going to be their source of advice, but they can always get a second opinion if they want. Because look how often, I don't even want to know, if you guys go on Google Analytics, you can analyze what people are searching all day, every day. And if you see what the people search, right, there are also these token apps that you can also use where you can get even more specific and look for these, what are the long tail word and all that strange stuff, right? When you go into marketing, you know about that stuff, right? And SEO. But you can really analyze the market, see what people are looking for, and you can build an app for that. And that would make their lives so much easier, because you guys know how often we sat in front of Google. I mean, now we have Perplexity and so, but still searching for the right information and finding the right information is not always that easy. And if we can build an app for that and help the people and make it easier for them, that's fascinating. That's really cool. There are so many opportunities out there. So I see, Alisha, that you have our image. How does it look resolution-wise? Is it good? Oh, look at that.
It's really good.
Yeah, cool. So you guys, just so you know, we have a live stream up, right? You guys can check that out. I still can't access it through Innovators Think Tank. I do not know what I'm doing wrong, but anyways, I pulled up the stream now on my computer. Look at that. You even changed, wow.
No, you're absolutely right. It says I don't have access. It must be private or something. Let me change that. Let me take a look at the ICT website. I see what it says. You don't have access, right?
It just says, it just shows me the last live from the
Yeah,
28th, right? Yeah,
I
it doesn't.
got it. It
Okay.
needs to be active, I think.
Oh,
Ooh, and I'll
Also,
give it to the space as well.
like a quick thing to add on to what you just shared, Sharon. Like the way we think about this as developers, right? Again, I'm not the best developer here, but like working with a lot of people like that, and like we sometimes have to conceptualize these things a little differently. There can be so many things be done by these LMMs that are not chatbots, right? Because we always try to kind of build a better chatbot, basically. For example, this is a very simple example I just want to give. It is probably not a good idea, but it highlights what I mean by that. So you could build, let's say, an iPhone app that has just one button, right? And what it does is like you press a button, it records the conversation, then it passes it to an LMM. The LMM determines if what just said is actually true and returns a red or green light. If you do that with cool sound it could be a party game with teenagers, right? Lie detector, something like that. And that is using an LMM, but it doesn't speak to you, right? But the LMM has so much power because it can decide things. You can have just as a piece of normal software deciding something that you couldn't do before, like magic.
yes. The ideas are endless, and that is very important for us to understand, right? We still need to instruct. We still need to have the creative ideas, right? Of course, if you have an initial idea, you put that into the LLM. The LLM will probably come up with some to refine your ideas. But if you just research the market, look what's going on now, and use your knowledge that you have about AI, right? And this little knowledge that we have with coding and stuff, right? You need to understand the infrastructure. Somehow you need that. But that's why we're here in this space. We have Alisher by our side that is a developer, right? We throw out the ideas. Alisher tells us, well, I don't know, let's ask the LLM, but Alisher can really guide the LLM really good because he knows what questions to ask. We are learning alongside Alisher, right? Learning what are the questions that we need to be asking when we want to develop something. Now, also one thing to keep in mind, GitHub is powerful because GitHub has so much open source code. If you have an idea, it is always, that's my advice, to go on GitHub and to see if someone has something similar that they have created already, because then you already have a code base. And then you can feed that code to your LLM and tell the LLM how you want to change that code to make it the way you want it. So a lot of work has already been done by all the smart developers out there. GitHub is the place to be. Does that make sense, Alisher?
Oh yeah, makes total sense. And GitHub is always a good starting point. We started from scratch because we just started with a simple chat screen. But if you go to GitHub, you're going to find all sorts of different frameworks, all sorts of different apps. You can find hundreds of Flutter apps there that do all sorts of different things. I think when I was just starting with Flutter, I found a few apps that are just like GPT wrappers that you can go in, generate some images with DALL-E, chat with it, and that's about it. Then you're gonna find some apps that are pretty cool, like a Pokédex for Pokemon built out of Flutter. But it's as easy as just taking the code, bring it into your VS Code, and just install dependencies and running it. Majority of the time, it's that easy when it comes to GitHub. If you find a good piece of code and a well-documented piece of code.
Yep. You just got to be careful there that you don't pull any crap, right? You got to make sure it comes from a good source and it's not any bullshit because you don't want to mess up your whole computer.
Yeah.
You got to be very careful.
Especially when it comes to GitHub. But GitHub, they're pretty good in terms of trying to keep things that are malicious out.
Yeah, but that's just something to keep in mind. Those are all tips that we get from developer friends, right? They tell us how to run it secure, how to do this, how to run security, like your API keys. You have to make sure that when you build something that your API keys are not shown, right? They have to be hidden. So you need a .env file, right? Because that means that that file is hidden, that nobody can steal your API keys. These are all very important things to keep in mind. And these are things that we cover here in this space, right? And that's because we're thankful that we have Alisher that points us in these directions. And other than that, of course, people are talking about Cursor. I haven't used it yet. I will definitely be doing a test. I will be doing a live stream on that. I will be testing it without testing it before. I will be pulling all the documentation. I will be running it through an LLM, and I will have the LLM explain me step by step how to use Cursor. That's going to be a very interesting live. I'll probably do it next week at some point so that I can see how easy is it really for an absolute beginner to get started with coding. That's going to be super interesting. Yeah, but anyways, there are so many possibilities, but we just need to kind of understand what we're doing. And that's where the LLM can't really help you. You need to instruct the LLM in some way, because otherwise the LLM will give you whatever, and you're going to be sitting there like, what? I don't really get it. So it's always helpful to hang out with developers, to hang out with people in spaces like this and just talk about it. What are your ideas? What do you want to do? How can you do it? What do you have to keep in mind when you do it? Those are things that are usually not discussed when people share, oh yeah, I can build a game in 5 minutes. Yeah, you can, but does anybody even want to play that damn game? And how can you make that game more interesting, right? How can you make that game, how can you bring it to the market? How can you have others play the game? They don't speak about all of those things. They run 4 lines of code and then they say, it's so easy, everybody can do it. People, that's not how it works. That is not how it works. You're not going to get anywhere. You could probably play the game by yourself, right? You can build a little game for yourself, but you're probably going to get bored at some point because there is a little bit complexity behind that. If you want to have a really cool game, you're going to have some cool ideas, right? That's just how it is. So back to you, Alisher.
I like that. And also start simple. Start with 1 page. Start just with the main screen. Just start with, not even having all these buttons. If you want to start coding, just say, hey, I want to build an app using blank. Give me the basic setup. Give me a step-by-step. And it will take you through the process. It'll take you through the motions. And you will at least get like the home screen. And then you can go from there. And always start simple. You don't want to start with, oh, I want to build an app that's an AI app that does a million things. Because at the end of the day, you have like a context limitation. And, it's going to implement one feature. It's going to forget about the other feature. And you're going to just get an app that's all sorts of broken from that. So start simple. For example, right now, I'm just using it to change colors.
Yep.
I'm not even using it to do a new feature yet.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. Of course, we're just doing this Fridays. If you were to do something alone, you would be way faster than us, right? But still, it's step by step. You integrate a feature, you see if it works seamlessly, you test it, and then you take it to the next step, right? And then you also ask yourself, does it even make sense? Is it easy then for the user to navigate through it? There are all sorts of things that we have to consider. So it's just super fascinating, but you can start simple, right? Of course, you can do a little game and then, of course, then try to take it to the next step. Okay, now you have your game. What are you going to do with the game? How do you want it to be integrated? There's many things that you're going to be asking yourself. But that's the way we learn to be creative, right? That's teaching us to use our our creativity, because every human is creative. That's what makes us human. There is nobody in this world that is not creative. They just forgot. That's the only thing, because of our lifestyle, because everything is very automated. You are not an NPC. You are not an LLM. And I get mad, not mad, but I stopped getting mad, but I really got mad at the beginning as people were trying to compare us with LLMs. We are not an LLM. We have way more capability, and we are the ones that are the drivers, right? And let's say the LLM is the car. The car will protect us when we, in a certain way, but we are still the driver. The LLM will not do anything without your instructions. You can automate, but you're still giving initial instructions. You have to code it, or whatever you want to call it, program it or teach it some way that it does what you want. And that's where humans are going to stay in the loop. We are very, very important. It doesn't matter how good these LLMs get, because if there are no humans on this planet, what is the LLM going to do? There is no need for an LLM. There's no need for a robot. There is no need for a system. So don't be scared. Be creative. Learn all of this. Educate yourselves, and you will find a place in this new world for sure. So back to you, Alisher. Kurt, what's going on with you, by the way? Are you here? Are you doing well?
Indeed, I'm doing very well. Just,
Okay, perfect.
yeah, I'm listening and tracking, the progress with what Alistair is demonstrating in this app, and then I'll pull it over and implement it locally. And
Yeah, I'm actually gonna
it
push this update right now, so you'll be able to pull it in a few minutes.
awesome. And then I'm simultaneously working on crazy stuff within the Flux universe. So
Yeah, we're fluxing people. We're doing these comfy things, and we're trying to create an effective Flux workflow. So yeah, we're playing around with that a lot, which we're gonna talk about on Sunday. Or
I think after this series, by the way, we should totally make like a front end for your guys' Flux workflow. Just get a really good workflow down, and then we'll make like a Next.js wrapper for it.
That's super cool, Alisher. Yep, that's what I was thinking about too. And then after we do that, I'm really thinking about trying to dig into 3D and trying to just figure out a way we can build an Apple Vision Pro app. I think that's going to be super fascinating.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but the problem is, you need a Mac.
Yeah, I know. Damn it.
And you need an Apple Vision Pro.
Damn it. Yeah, well, you have both. You have an Apple Vision Pro and you have, you're right. That's so true. Yeah. Maybe we can think about, maybe we can do something, maybe just 3D like, maybe something game like or something like that. We'll figure it out as we
I
go.
think we can do Unreal maybe. Unreal is great.
Yes, that's a good idea. Unreal. Oh yeah, that would be super awesome. Because you guys know we're moving into a 3D world. So, we want to play a role, right? I mean, think about it. If you have your 2D web page, it's probably going to be boring for people at some point. That's not going to happen next year, but in a couple years from now, people are going to be looking for they want to be in worlds. They don't want to look at flat 2D apps anymore. So that's going to be super fascinating to go into.
100%. I've done a little bit of work with some gaming modders where we kind of build the LMMs into NPCs, you would say, right? And they're playing their roles. We also, one guy I know managed to Skyrim. Everybody knows Skyrim, right? A very popular RPG, probably the most popular RPG on the planet. And he kind of took all the recordings from the voice actors, right? Ran them through an AI. And now if you couple that all together, now the LMM can talk for the NPC in his original voice, but he can say new things, of course. And you can talk to him as long as you want. And then if you make all the NPCs like that, and I played a Skyrim game like that, it was expensive, of course, you need all the AIs, but that is surreal. And it's really, since I've once done that, it's like, I don't even want to go back. Every other game feels dead now. Like, but that is something else, and that is something that is coming soon. You would be able to play a game like that forever.
Crazy. Yeah, we had an interesting web through, today's space was really cool because, I'm not really into gaming, but my son plays games and, they all play games here. And it was just super interesting to have a discussion about, how the future will look, owning your assets, making your own assets, having worlds be created on the fly, because AI has that capability. If it can read the way you move, what you do, your decisions you make within a game, it can create endless worlds. You can be in, I don't even know. That's going to be super wild. I hope we still find time to touch grass in this new world. That's something that Imagine, I mean, we're already stuck with X on spaces all day, doing all this stuff, right? Sharing information, sharing thoughts and ideas. Just imagine you're in a 3D world, you're talking to your friends on the other side of the planet, playing a game, everything is going to be gamified. It's crazy, but that's the future that we're moving towards. So I hope we don't forget nature in that transition.
That's something we have to wrestle with then, yeah.
Yep.
But it will get interesting.
It will, for sure.
Especially next year. Did you see, by any chance, don't want to go too far off topic, but Eric Schmidt had this interview, right? And he talked about like 2025. He looked really concerned and like gonna be on fire, like for sure. Because that's when all this stuff comes together, right? Now we see these raw capabilities like an LMM here and a voice generator there, and right. But next year, all of this comes together, and I think you don't even need anything new. When all of that comes together, and like, it will be different.
It's true, because you know what? 2025 is going to be the year of the hardware. Just wait until everybody comes out with functioning hardware. That's when it gets really interesting, because now people are kind of struggling with, oh man, I don't have the hardware. I can't run this. I can't do this. But just wait until all of that becomes more affordable and people can really afford powerful computers and have that at home. That's when it gets really interesting, because that's when the real fun starts.
I wonder about content on the internet, and I think that is something Eric also thought about when he said that. For example, I just thought about this. I'm making these music videos, right? And sometimes I'm using, I don't even know, 3 or 4 different AI tools to put them together, and it takes a bit of time. But having done a few of them, I could, of course, realize that you could just write a software, basically, give an LLM kind of to write a story, and then use all of these AIs and just make one, right? And press a button and make another, and press a button and make another, and then I have 10,000s. And then everybody can do that, and then we have billions of them, and then will YouTube even exist anymore? And I mean next year, because we will be able to do things like that then.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, for me, YouTube is still very important, because that's where I get a lot of information, because not just YouTube, also all the research papers. I read a lot of papers on AI and AI development and research. I do watch, a lot of things. I was watching the Lex Friedman podcast with 11 Levels IO. I watch Machine Learning Street Talk, where very important people come on and talk about their research and their development and where they stand with AI and their thoughts on that. So I personally believe that we still need a place where we get information from. I don't think that that's going to go away. How that will look in the future is going to be interesting, right? How important will YouTube be? Will YouTube change? I don't know. I don't know. Will YouTube be really the place where we get all our information from, where we scrape all the data in whichever shape or form? Because people talk about scraping data, but look at it this way. When you watch a video, you're scraping data with your brain, right? Aren't you scraping it? You're already doing that anyways. I mean, where do you get your information from? You get your information from other people. So it's going to be super interesting to see where that all goes. But YouTube is still very important for me personally.
Yeah, for me as well. That's why I'm, almost concerned. I don't want to say concerned, but because there have been already tools where you can kind of one click make your virtual influencer, right? So you could easily imagine, I can imagine, like next year you can just tell a powerful multimodal LMM to, hey guy, create an influencer, research this topic, let him talk about it, make a video, upload it to YouTube, and do that 10,000 times, and then everybody does that. I don't know how we would handle that. I have no answer, of course, but I know that these tools will exist next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alisher, can I ask you a question? Now, your command or your prompt. Now, you ask the LLM that it should, be aligned with Open Router. So you're doing the calendar now. You're doing the schedule, right?
Yep.
Why did you put? I'm trying to understand. your prompt there, it has, well, what are your thoughts there? Let me see the prompt. Can you go back up and let me see your prompt?
So for the prompt, I'm asking it to create the other feature, right? The weekly schedule. And this is also kind of needs to be AI powered. Because at the end of the day, you want to make it simple, right? You want to make it where the AI just asks a few questions and then it builds a schedule. And the reason I'm using OpenRouter is because we already have it integrated. We already have an API key in there.
Oh, but now, so you say for this page, right, the AI needs to ask the user a few questions. Are we going to implement those questions via system prompt, or where do these questions come from?
We'll see. We'll see how the AI interprets what
Oh,
we want, right?
okay,
So
okay,
we'll see how this goes.
okay, cool. This is awesome, people. You guys need to check the live stream because you can really see, you know, the prompts from Alisher, what he's asking the AI. That gives you a feeling of what you need to be asking the AI, right? When you are building something, whatever you are building, because you need to be very concise and precise with your prompting.
Yeah, and you want to be straight to the point, right? You want to give it the shortest distance from A to B and try to encompass everything that you want out of it. Because for me, for example, I want this to be safe, right? So a lot of this information, like the journal entries, the name, the occupation, the age, all of that is being saved locally on the device. So I want this schedule to be saved as well.
So what you mean there, you want it to not for, so explain that. How do you put that in the prompt?
So for the prompt, typically, a device that you're using is going to have local storage, right? So I learned this from Next.js. So Next.js, you know, web-based, browser-based coding language, it utilizes your local storage through the browser, right? So pretty much you can access the storage and make files using the app on your device, and you just got to know the difference. Because if you say I want this information to be stored, well, it's going to interpret it as, okay, it wants to be stored in a database, right? Database implies that this data is stored somewhere outside of the device. But if you say I want this to be stored locally on the device, then it's going to understand, and it's going to, looks like here, specifically for Flutter, it uses what's called shared preferences package. It's not called local storage, but it understands, you know, it translates your language into Flutter language.
That's awesome.
And let's see what we get here. This is probably going to be a little bit rough. And all the files in your Flutter, all the files that you see on the screen, typically on the app in Flutter, are called Dart files, D-A-R-T.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And for each feature, you have a file, right? So our main Dart is the first page, right? That's what.
Yeah, pretty much for each screen. Each new screen has its own file. So each new page that you see is going to end up having its own file.
You know what I'm thinking right now? I could probably build, yeah. You can build a web page like this. It would probably be easier and faster if you know what you're doing. Can you do code, CSS code in Visual Studio Code? Do people do that?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you're doing, right? So if you're in Next.js, you might use CSS, HTML, all these very browser-based frameworks. They use CSS, and it does pretty good with CSS as well. You get all the same contextualization and color scheming and color coding, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And also, what I like to do is just saying, "Here's my page, update it, and give me the latest, give me the full code." 'Cause I'm lazy, and I just want the AI to code everything for me.
Kirk, I was thinking, I did not update my project yet.
Oh,
Did you
thank you
already
for
update
reminding
it?
me. Thank you for reminding me. Let me push that right now.
Well, I don't want to update it because the thing is that I want to go through this by myself. That's just, I know it's a lot of work. I don't know if it makes sense, but for me, if I just update it, well, I didn't really go through the process myself. You know what I mean? Of course it's easier, but all these steps, I want to do it myself. I have so little time at the moment, but I don't think I want to update it. I know it's going to be on your GitHub. I can do it anytime if I break stuff. But yeah, I didn't update it last week either. So I want to do the DeepGram integration myself, and I want to do this integration by myself too. I mean, with your screen, with your
I think you
screen.
could fork it and create another folder with the most updated, like the most latest version. So your
Yeah.
local, you have two different installs. Like one
Oh,
is, yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But I know where to find
You
it.
could also make a new branch.
Yeah. Excuse me?
You could make a new branch in GitHub and have a branch that's older, have a branch that's newer. So if you're trying to go through this on your own and you're just like, you know what, screw it, I just want to take the code and put in the API keys, you can have that as well. But this is going to be public forever, so you'll always have this resource.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't even have to worry about it, but I definitely want to go through this myself. I know some people are probably going to call me crazy, but oh, this looks so nice. So generates, oh my gosh. So we basically have now a what do we call it? So what do we call it? So the user can put his own schedule together whichever way he wants. Well, I mean, based on these little modules or what, so to say. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I guess. Right. I just told it, hey, I want some of these questions to be included. So it did that for me. Um, let's see. And these are just basic questions. You could include more, but the main part I'm concerned about right now is the building the actually generating the schedule. So we'll see right now. I try to answer all of these as truthfully as possible. So
Man, this is so fun. We're probably going to then also integrate have a reminder, right? Somehow.
yeah. So for reminder, it's what's called push notifications. We'll take a look at it. We'll ask the AI how we can do that. But yeah, the reminder is definitely an important part of it. Kind of what makes it an app, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many hours of sleep? Oh, look, this is a question that I didn't even include as a recommended question. It just assumed that this is something you might want to know for the schedule.
Did the LLM now give these questions or?
Yeah. So the LLM is going to take these and hopefully generate a good schedule for me. I like my.
Well,
I'll
isn't
put
this
8
also
hours.
related to being mindful? Like, you're mindful, your your attitude, your whatever. Are you getting enough sleep? Maybe that's why you're agitated.
You
That
know,
as well.
yeah, that's true, but I have a little bit of an issue there because for me, I don't want the LLM to give the person rules. The only rule that the LLM should give the user is to do your stuff that you create on your own, kind of. So, it's kind of hard because what if the person doesn't need 8 hours sleep? I mean, what does enough sleep actually mean? You know what I mean? So how can we now say, well, you need 9 hours and you need 10 hours? You know what I mean? That's kind of hard to say. What would be more interesting is, well, how do you feel if you just sleep 6 hours? Do you feel that that is enough? And then the person has to think about it themselves. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know. For me, 6 hours are not enough. So then the reaction could be, well, then you might need to sleep a little bit longer, but not like, oh, you need 8 hours, because that's the problem that I have with traditional therapists. They're not all like that, but there is no rule. For me, for example, 8 hours is too much sleep because the way my lifestyle is, I can't 8 hours, I'm going to be dead the whole day if I sleep 8 hours. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to say. So I think we're looking for an LLM that kind of just guides the person to find the answers themselves, other than dictating. Does that make sense?
Well, it's an app. It can't really dictate your life. You don't have to follow it.
Yeah, but if we want, let's put it this way. So what's very, very important for us is we want it to be successful. So, it needs to bring the person to some kind of realization, because that's the problem that I see with apps that are out here right now. They're not really that successful because of things like that. Because the person is not really realizing. It's like your mommy telling you, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. But giving the person the power and saying, you have to figure it out, and then we can work on something together. You know what I mean? It probably sounds super strange. But since I'm a therapist, that's the way I work. And that's the most successful way. Because you will have people that will reject at some point. They will be like, nah. Why are you telling me to do this? This does not make sense to me. And that is where the person cuts out and says, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. I don't want you to be my therapist anymore. That's just my experience that I've had the past 13 years working with people. You need to get them to figure it out. And that's not easy. That's really the magic of being a good therapist. So that's why the system prompt, I'm definitely going to be working on the system prompt and to see what we can do there to make it in that way.
That was just a series of questions that hone down closer to personalization. So like you said, with how much rest do you feel is the most effective for you, and in kind of making that a fun process, like maybe having something in between, so that when they enter in free answers, that the model does something with that information to show them why it's effective for them to do that.
Yeah.
One of the issues is like really long questionnaires or filling in a lot of questions, but you don't know how that's going to end up working. It doesn't build trust with the user.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of finishing out that process is very low.
And
so
isn't this just to build the calendar, the week, the schedule? So it's just asking like, how much time do you? They're just trying to figure out where to put the block the time out, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You're given it information and then it puts it in a schedule format.
Yeah, I'm just taking this a step further because this is going to be interesting for a project, and this is going to make or break it. because like Kirk said, it'll be boring at some point for the user and it won't find any. And I think that's the power of the LLM, because since we have something that is so powerful and so interactive, which the LLM is, because it can, whatever question you ask, it will, it can guide you wherever you want to go. So having it like that, that's really the person basically guiding the LLM, and then the LLM guiding the person back. So it is a symbiosis. You know what I mean? Which is way more interesting and will take our app to the next level. It might not be that easy, but we need to figure out a way to really have the person be the guide without knowing that the person is the guide. Does that make sense?
Right, but they have enough feedback and reward within that process so that it doesn't become mundane or boring, or you're spending 10-15 minutes entering in field after field after field. If you get to see some results and and it shows like, oh look, okay, you put in 3 and here's what your calendar looks like, and here's some things that we can ascertain from these schedule, that the users see the additional features that are available through the LLM. They see that entering in high content, high quality information results in high quality output, right? That the model has something in the if their calendar is accurate and they have filled in the appropriate level of detail, the model can work with that information to provide them, better coaching.
Yep, exactly. Oh, we got a failed. Screen red.
So probably more build like a baseline and then go from there. Like, oh, maybe we can make a tweak here, a tweak there. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of an LLM. That's the power of it, because it's not static. That's just something we have to keep in mind. It's not static. And that is the power of an LLM. And that's where you can really get to the next level with an LLM.
I mean, that's what they, traditionally couldn't consider interactivity. So you're building in, you're making your agent functionally interactive versus like the old system where you would have lots and lots of scripting that would, like this person has chosen this and this person has chosen this, and then response and response. The model has the ability to go a bit deeper than that, and be reflexive based on a large number of inputs, which are not necessarily conforming to a very basic script. So that's leveraging that power is pretty important.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Fascinating people. I love this. This back and forth talking about it just brings us, to really cool ideas. And then Alisher's probably going to be like, oh man, what the heck? But he's very responsive. I like, because Alisher then has other ideas and he just knows this is just fascinating. He thinks outside of the box too, and takes our little freaky questions to the next level with his ideas. I just love the symbiosis. So I'm so thankful for all of you.
We might need to shelf this feature for a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time trying to troubleshoot it. I want to see how we can build this and put this up on the web so we can share this.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a few things, because I think some models, they don't support structured data. So that might be one of the issues we're having.
So can I ask you something now? Good that you say that, because I have a question regarding what's the difference between instruct models and chat models?
Between what? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We can also talk about that later. My question was, what is the difference between an instruct model and a chat model?
Oh, good question. I think an instruct model is gonna give you a little bit more. Oh, this is terrible schedule, but it works.
It works for now.
An instruct model is more for things like coding. It's more for tasks. It's gonna focus more on kind of giving you instructions versus a chat model where you can just, it's kind of, it does both. You can, wow, there's like a gang of bikers outside of my window. But yeah, so a chat model, you can kind of do both. You can ask it for instructions, and you can also just do regular chatting. And you could also do these other things like help structure data in your responses.
So the instruct would be probably more for like more automation type things, and then the chat is more of this back and forth and
Yeah, definitely,
storytelling, etc.
definitely. And I personally, for example, prefer the regular chatting because it's a little bit more, like it's not as limited. Instruct, you'll find that the responses are instructive, and telling you to do something versus just having a back and forth. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's an interesting schedule. I wonder how we can make that a little bit more, make it,
legible, readable, like little easier to read.
Yeah, also maybe not so gigantic, you know what I mean? Because if someone's on their phone, for example, right, they're gonna have to scroll over, that could be a pain in the butt probably.
Well, I think it was just me because I just put no for all the answers.
Oh.
So all you see here is free time, sleep, free time.
Yeah,
But I
maybe,
do want to add a scroll over so I can see the rest of the days.
yeah, maybe we can just put the things that,
Just reduce the number of questions and then maybe block it.
yeah, and also just have, if that day I got this, and this to do, right? And then the rest, of course, is free time, right? We don't have to probably put that in there. So that you basically just have.
We could do something like that, like
choices, multiple choice would be really good.
We're just like Monday you gotta do this, Tuesday you gotta do this, and it's not in the table format, but it's like one after the other.
Exactly.
And
Not in
whenever
table.
you open it, the first thing that pops up is that day of the week. So
Yeah,
if we're on Friday, the first thing on top should be a Friday.
exactly. What do you mean by multiple choice? Do you think that's better, Kirk?
Well, check boxes or something so that like these are within the scope of what this coaching app is doing. That these pre-prompted choices will kind of make along with the system prompt work more effectively. Ash, remember how we were optimizing the system prompt for the other tools? Like, I would imagine that if you had pre like the multiple choice would be like tags, and so like throughout the week, if these tags are in the box, then the model in the system prompt recognizes that the user is doing this kind of thing or needs this kind of assistance, right? In other words, the directed assistance is a result of selecting things out of the multiple choice categories. I know it gets kind of complicated, but
yeah, the problem with multiple choice is there are thousands of things you could do throughout the day.
True, but of all the things, like they all fall in within a group or a set of categories, though, within the terms of what a life coach would be coaching about.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It'll be also a little bit more guidance and easier for the person. I mean, it's always good if the person has to think about things. It's not bad. But like say how much sleep you can say 4 to 6 hours or 6 to 8 or 9 or 8 to 10 or something like that, right? That you have 3. Yeah.
And just
That's
avoiding typing as much as possible, and then just making it so you can really quickly, tap, 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 tap to get the data entry done. Accelerating the data entry process as quick as possible.
Yeah,
So
but it could be kind of hard because what if the answer is just not available because you haven't thought about it?
And there's a custom field for that,
Okay, that you just have a custom field. Yeah, I don't know what the easier way is now for Alisher. What would be the best way to do it?
Well, I mean, these are modifications that can come later, but I'm just thinking to increase the usability and the rate of adoption by users. You want to have this level of interactivity and ease of use.
Yeah.
In those, that the more quickly people can get to what they're wanting to occur, including having a really good calendar. The responses in the calendar are useful and are directing the model to give, advice or direction that is useful, right? All of those factors, but you have to encourage them to do that task of data entry. So figuring out the model out of like Alistair said, there's thousands of things that can be chosen in a week, but if you have a predefined template for creating multiple choice questions out of those thousands of things, then it will automatically present those things in a multiple choice format.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the options. So anyway, that's a thought.
And maybe sort of categorizing. So, one is more of the, meditating, exercise, task oriented, and block it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Good ideas.
So in other words, it's like you're using the model to conform the data entry so that it fits within a set of parameters, so that it looks good in the calendar. Your training agent can easily use that information to plan out something that is related to the life coaching that's going to occur. And to make suggestions for additional things to add into their week that they didn't enter. Like, oh, well, I see that on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday you have a very high stress environment and are working, like you have a lot of hours. So let me recommend this type of meditation or this activity, or in those as part of that, it's part of that coaching.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder though if we can put all of that stuff in system prompt. I think that's going to be a little bit challenging. I don't know if we have to.
Because everything is being stored in local storage, you can easily add it to the system prompt, just like we have here on the therapist page, because this is all going to happen on the therapist page, all the talking, right? Just like here, for example, we have, let's see, we have where it loads the name, it loads occupation, it loads age, it loads the journal entries. We can just as easily make it load the schedule.
And then how would it then recommend a certain type of meditation? How would that work?
You would probably need to modify the system prompt. I think right now our system prompt is very therapist focused. I think we just got to edit it to be life coach focused.
Yeah, and more interactive, because I'm thinking, we can't, we're going to have to give it these meditation types probably, right? Or, we have to figure that out. I think that's going to be a bit complicated.
You should be able to generate a list really quick of all the meditation types, that exist, and then
tell it when to use what.
Yeah, Roro is going to try to go ahead, Roro.
Yeah, it's sort of like a like meal planning, like when you've ever done those meal delivery kind of things, you sort of tell your sort of preferences and things like that, and sort of you get a baseline. And from there you can go, today it's just blah or whatever, and then they can do it from that way, kind of thing like that.
Yeah, yeah. See how important the system prompt is and how in depth you can go with the system prompt? That's cool. Because you're gonna have to tell it if person says A, then you're gonna have to give the person A, right? If the person says B, you're gonna have to give the corresponding B to the person, right? Am I thinking in the right way?
Well, you want to limit the scope of what you're doing to a certain extent, so that you're not all over the place. Like, so, what are the primary features that mindfulness app is focused on? What kind of meditation? Versus, are you really going to do all meditation styles or all types of everything?
Well, I don't know if I'm
Like, is it going to? Are you going to do musicology? Are you going to do physiotherapy recommendations? Are you going to do, like, what kind of suggestions does the mindfulness app, expertise
Well,
in it?
yeah, but I know that's my expertise. So
Yeah.
if someone is a certain mood, if a person is a certain mood, right, you have to recommend a certain kind of practice. And that's where you would have to give it you would have to put that into the system prompt. So certain trigger words, well, tell me about your day today. Let's say that question comes up. So then the person says, well, this went down, this happened, this happened, this happened. Oh, cool. Well, if that happened, then I would recommend you do this, right? Because you don't want to, it depends on what state of being the person is, then a certain practice would trigger them in a good way. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying
And
to.
it plays a certain song too to go with it.
Exactly. We are thinking, Rutro, you were in the space last week. So Alisher had the idea, which is super awesome, to give the person access to a music generator so that the person could then, after their little talk, prompt a music generator and have a little song. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, because you can do both instrumental and you can do guided meditation. You can actually generate NLP scripts that will function. So you can you can actually create your own hypnosis. I would not clinical.
Wow. Yeah.
But you can create, but that's an option within the
That's
music
awesome.
to create a guided meditation track. So those are things that you can do that. But there's I'm just saying the full scope of what you're doing. I mean, if you're not getting into there's just so many different forms and types of therapy that exist, right? And I think you want to be upfront and clear about what you're specializing in terms of like what this app is offering, so that people are not overwhelmed with like, what I can do meditation with crystals, and I can do meditation with there's a ton of.
You don't have to be no. You don't even have to be that complicated. It is it's you don't have to even be that complicated. The life coach, it is modern systems it's not a psychotherapist. You're not even going there that way, because then you have legal issues, right? You're not even going to go that way. So a meditation is just a meditation. It's nothing. It's not a psychotherapist meditation. It's not a psychology, based meditation. It's just meditation. So basically the meditation is always the same. The person sits, close their eyes, can focus on breathing, right? So let's say there are different types of meditation. So either you do one where you visualize, right? You do one where you focus, which is not necessarily a meditation. You can have someone sit in front of a candle and just stare at the damn flame, right? Or you have a meditation where someone just does a mantra or some word, repeats a word or a sentence. Like, what do people like? I am loved, I am this, whatever, right? So those are basically the meditations. It's not psychotherapy or anything. I wouldn't even go there. It's just modern day.
I was getting into psychotherapy. I was saying that there's all the different types and varieties of meditation that exist.
And I think we should implement them, like, so that the person has it, that it's interesting, that the person doesn't always do the same. So the person sits down and meditates and always does the same thing. No, you can do a meditation where someone listens to a song, right? It could be, oh, now today you're going to prompt a song, right? Or you prompt the song with words that come to your mind, and then you sit there and you listen. That's going to be your meditation. You're just going to listen to the song, for example. Then the next day.
Are we able to implement frequency yet? I know I asked Ross about this. I'm very interested in this topic. He had said something about being able to do that soon, or do you know if that's happened?
That's a good question. I have no idea, Julie.
I know Nick is building in that direction, so I don't know how far along they are yet, though.
I'm figuring right now, this can be a freaking awesome app. I mean, look how in detail you can go. But I mean, basically you have 6, 7 different types of meditations. There you go. That's it. You have 6, 7 different types of meditation. There isn't more anyways. And done deal. That's all, Kirk. We don't have to even go that complicated.
I mean, you could also offer like a prayerful type of meditation too for those who want to do that. You
can, so you would divide that. So you have meditation practices, and then you have breathing practices. Then you have maybe a movement practice where someone does certain movements. That could be yoga based, for example, or it can be Pilates based, or it can be whatever, Tai Chi based, or it can be, I don't know. You know, you can just, we can come up with ideas, right? And just categorize what kind of practice it is, right? This is a focus practice because the person is completely scattered maybe one day. This could be a focused practice that the person does on that day. Then the other day the person is tired. Then you would do something energizing because the person has a little bit work to do in the evening. So then you have a other practice that someone needs to do because they're sad, they're very emotional. Then you would do whatever, right? You can do a meditation practice then. So there are different types of practices that can be categorized into 4 or 5 different categories. It's super simple. I can help you guys there. That's my job. That's what I do every day. So it's super simple. And then we would just have to implement that into the system prompt and tell it, well, when the person gives you these trigger words, right? I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm this, I'm that, then please offer the person this practice for today. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to kind of have a smart system prompt that we can then, that it then gives the user the right practice. Because then it's very interactive, because then it flows with the person. Because if the person is then confused one day, well, then you have 3 or 4 different kinds of practices that the person can then do. It's not always the same mundane thing. And then you can tell the LLM to, you know, well, we have these 4 practices for someone that's confused. Well, then don't always give them the same practice, mix and match. Don't always do the same thing, right? I don't know how good we're going to do that, but it's going to be a complicated system prompt. I'll tell you that right away. And then we have to see if it reacts to it. Go ahead, Rutro.
Yeah, this could go 100 million different directions and tons of ideas. It could even like suggest books, you know, I mean, here's like a affiliation link or what, I mean,
yeah,
a poem or book or a mantra or a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
Manifestation.
Manifestation. There's so many things that you can do. Yeah. So that's going to be a super interesting system prompt. I think we're going to have a space where we just do the system prompt.
Yeah, but I just what I was trying to get at is there's also, what's most popular is Eastern meditation, right? Like there's, Reiki, yoga, like a lot of these different styles out of Eastern meditation. But
It doesn't
there's
matter.
very ancient Western,
It doesn't matter. I know it
ways
doesn't matter.
yeah,
We have to do
this
Western based.
Yeah.
We have to do Western based. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Zen, Buddhist, meditate. They're all the same, basically. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go that complicated. It's Western approach to modern mindfulness practices. Done deal. Right? We can just call it mindfulness. We don't even have to say, oh, it's yoga now. It's going to be Zen now. I wouldn't even go that far. It doesn't make any sense because we're Westerners. We're not Indians. We're not Chinese. We're none of that. So it has to just be a modern approach, right? So like reading a book can also be meditative, right? Like Rutro said, manifestation thingy, whatever, right? I think we could just do a modern approach to that. I think that's the easiest way to go. And then we can all come up with ideas that things that work for us, maybe, that calm us down. Sometimes just listening to a song can be a practice. You know what I mean? And that's a form of meditation too.
I have long audio of rain that I've taken from different states.
Yeah. Listening to birds, a recording of birds, for example, that could be a meditation too. It could be whatever you want to call it. I think we can get creative here. I don't think we have to focus on any tradition. I think, I don't know.
wasn't saying about focusing on any given tradition. I was saying having the option for the user to choose the tradition that most suits their interest and lifestyle.
No, I wouldn't do that. Because then you get into problems. I'll tell you that right now. So sometimes when I used to teach classes, I don't teach yoga classes anymore. I only do one-on-one. So we would have a class and then we would do namaste and people would put their hands in front of their heart. Well, we had people that had a problem with that. Well, you guys are not Christian. You're not allowed to do that. And I had really problems. So, I wouldn't even go, because what if someone doesn't like the Zen practice? What if someone has an issue with that? What if someone has an issue with Hinduism? What if, so that's why I would say we need to do a Westerners approach, because we're Westerners, and maybe not label it. You know what I mean? That we're careful with that. I just wouldn't go there. I wouldn't do
I was just saying that you can turn those things on and off. That's what I was trying to get at, is you have the ability to be flexible. If somebody wants to take Eastern approach, then they can choose that. If they want to choose a Christian approach, they can choose that one. If they want to choose that, because the models know that stuff. They know it well enough to be able to actually build a program for you based on your preferences.
So you're saying that at the beginning, the person would then have to, at the beginning, we just have to figure out how we program that. So at the beginning, the person would choose, well, my life coaching should be Zen approach or Christian approach. I mean, that's interesting for sure, right?
Yeah. Because I've already done this before within. I've used models for Bible studies. I've also used them for, looking into Zen meditation and creating, like I said, building NLP scripts too. So yeah. I mean, you can do that.
I mean, you can do that. That would be very complex, though. I mean, that's probably something that we can think about in the future, right? I think for now, because that's a lot of stuff, right? I mean, of course, we can make use of the LLM since the LLM has all of that, but how are you going to do the system prompt?
I don't know. I could create a little system prompt and show you, but I mean, it's not. It's really not as hard as what you would think, and I was rather surprised how much knowledge is already in the model.
Yeah, I just don't want to make it too confusing, right? I mean, of course, if a person has option, I want to do a Christian-based life coaching. I want to do a Zen Buddhist-based life coaching. That could be super interesting, right? That the person has to choose at the beginning, right at the start. What way do you want to go? But what if the person then makes a different decision along the way? I don't know.
Well, I don't see there's any reason that they can't change midstream if they want to.
Yeah.
If they want to do a hybrid fusion of a bunch of different things, then there's, the only limiting factor is what's in the model. Honestly.
Yeah, Alisher, what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry guys, I was focusing on deploying this and logging into Bristol and all that. So yeah, I missed a lot of that. So I was just focusing on.
So it's okay. Don't worry about it. This is just like, this is where you kind of like figuring out how to make it more marketable, hitting a larger audience, using an LLM to tailor the product to the client's needs, and using interactivity so that the client has fundamental choice that they in the past would never really have.
Yep.
But then also at the same time, with the expertise of whoever is designing the app, having some key factors that are in the system prompt that are novel that you're not going to find on other systems. Those are different functions, and then those things are interpolated or translated by the model. Like, if it's to a Christian format, then it's going to give you Bible verses on this thing, or if it's a Zen format, it's going to give you, or Confucius, or different statements and meditative words that are most aligned with the way that you like to think. But those are guided by the system prompt, which is created by, like Sharon, like, who knows about what is most effective to do when, right? Because there's a decision tree in there in the system prompt. The variable becomes the statement, and the statement is guided by what the user has decided that they want their final output to look like. It's really not, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's really strange. That's what I found anyway. Robert has your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we sort of touched on it, but we're like keeping a lot of data about the person, right? I mean, and we're doing this locally. I mean, so does this memory, or do we need, the whole storage thing and the privacy, etc. So is there any limitations to that, Kurt? When you're going back and forth, or because it's almost like you're building a relationship.
All of that should be stored in a local file on the person's, either the person's device or computer. Okay. So it's never, you never have to worry about the privacy aspect. And then technically, if that output is in a JSON, then they can use that for the rest of their life to inform future mod versions of the life coach. Like, do you have your life coach 1.0?
Yeah, I can just see getting this big, right? If they're journaling and they're asking all these kind of questions, and today, and how long they're talking to it.
Right, and we just saw the context windows go up to like what, 1 billion tokens. Like you can have 700 novels. Million. So yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, the later versions of this app may have the ability to take 3 years of journals.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting to consider because, like you said, Kirk, it's not like current systems have that included, right? So I can't go to a Christian base. Well, maybe I can. I don't know. I never went to a therapist, but you can't go to a Christian based therapist, right? And
you can. I have a Christian psychologist. Great.
Yeah.
But that's because that is what works for me. But that's not what works for everybody. Everybody has.
Yeah, but don't you think
there's something that works in your life that you understand the most, that you have context. And that's the aspect, is like the therapy or the meditation or whatever being directed for you has to be relevant to your life
Well,
and have meaning.
yeah, but I don't think it really matters that much, to be honest, because if the person, so think about it. If the person talks about, so if the person has a journal, right, and the person speaks about whatever their Christian values or whatever have you, won't the LLM pick that up anyways? You know what I mean? Because
I mean, if you, it just depends on how you wanted to define the output. You know, like if they're talking about their experiences in Shinto meditation and being at a in a location in Japan, then you want the model to output information that is relevant to that experience. That's what I'm trying to get
but
at,
I have a problem with that, because how are you going to be diverse enough that you help everybody? You know what I mean? I don't even know how many different types of religions and different types of practices, I'm just thinking
but
about.
all of it's in the model. Like,
Not
this has never been
everything.
done
I
before.
don't think
But
everything's in there.
well, I mean, but there's also an option to fine tune, right? Maybe there's an ability to enter in the documentation.
And
That's where that was my question. So it's almost like we need to sort of like train Alora for you on your own little thing by little prompts back and forth.
so the issue, the issue that I have with that we personally have limited knowledge about all of that. You know what I mean? So how do we know at that moment, right, if the knowledge that we implement is the right knowledge, if that's the real stuff? I can't.
User feedback, they're going to say this is terrible or this is great, one of the two.
Well, then you're going to lose a client maybe. So why don't we just keep it simple? I don't even know if that.
No, I mean, definitely can keep it simple at the very beginning. I'm just saying, I'm exploring the aspects of what the capabilities of models are, with what I've experimented with so far.
Yeah.
In the area of therapy, meditation, focus, relaxation, and all the different things that you can do. I mean, I've gone really far, as even generating a script and recording it and using my own voice to do so, and then distributing that, and people really enjoyed it. But it was just like, now you can automate all of that. You can actually have a with like the podcasting tool, it'll record an entire script of whatever and it's really good and easy to listen to. And then with the music making tools, you can have a song. So there's all these different ways now that didn't exist a couple of years ago when I first was experimenting with the concept of creating relaxation, meditation, focus training. There's and a life coach of this nature like could do that, which even psychologists can't do. Not even therapists know how to do that at this point in time, for the most part. Like, just issue you instantaneously what it is that you need based on your notes, and then the structure of what the coach has set forth as a good direction for the course.
Yeah, but I think with the input of the person, I think we can get somewhere, because the LLM will respond based on the input of the person. So I'm thinking that will probably already be covered in some way. So the person will probably enter something like, this is very important to me, or whatever, right? And I guess that the LLM will be able to respond, because we can then make it easier for us if we give it the right system prompt to be very conscious or very focused on certain trigger words. That we can then have a more generalized system prompt, so that the LLM can react to whatever, those certain, some word, Christian, if that word is in the talk,
Well, you could say it could be Buddhist, it could be Christian, it could be, any number of religions from around the world.
I know. This was just an example. Christian is just the example because I'm living in a Western world, right? So that was just an example, right? But we can have those certain words maybe implemented that the LLM then reacts to it, right? And speaks maybe a little bit on it, because then we can just save a lot of time and a lot of work with that, that the person doesn't have to choose, because the LLM is that fluid and can then, react if the system prompt is good. I'm just saying. I think there's probably an easier way to it. Since the LLMs have all of that information, that there are other ways that the LLM will put out that information for the person. Let's say the person says, I don't know, maybe a discussion can be, have you ever done meditation before? If so, okay, what kind of meditation do you know? What meditations have you done in the past, right? And then based on the response from the user, that the LLM can then act accordingly in some way. But yeah, I think there are a couple ways to go about it and see where we get. I mean, when we start to do the system prompt and really, refine it, that we can then prompt it and see what comes out, and then take it from there maybe. Because for me, I don't want to sound kind of, I understand what we mean, that we want the person to feel comfortable, right? Because if the person is hears something that they're used to, that they love, that they like, it's going to be easier for them maybe to feel more connected to the AI. So that definitely makes sense. But if someone is having mental problems, then the question is now, if this person is in a certain whatever religion or whatever, why, what did it help that person? Do you know what I mean? I don't want to sound now stupid. I don't really, please don't take this, right? I'm trying to frame this as sensitive and as caring as I can, but what did it help the person? You know what I mean? Because then why does the person need guidance in the first place if the person is rooted in Buddhism? Why hasn't it done anything for the person? You know what I mean? So how important is it then? Can we not have a more neutral approach? Because if a person wants to, this is just my experience as a life coach and a therapist myself. If a person has, the person needs to kind of detach from everything if it wants change. So the person might also have to detach from its religion for a moment to grasp what's actually going on and then find their religion back with a complete new mindset. Does that make sense? So if I work with a person, I can only be successful if the person is willing to let go. That means from everything, not in a sense that it can't go back, but it needs to release all of that first, because otherwise there's no possibility to work with the person. It doesn't work. So that's just my experience. The way I do therapy might not be the therapy that, but I have a lot of success with that way I do it. So all of that doesn't matter at that moment. It doesn't matter what religion you belong to. It doesn't matter what you eat every day. It doesn't matter what your hobbies are. It all doesn't matter at that moment. So the person has to detach from everything to really see, it has to zoom out. You know what I mean? The person has to zoom out and get a complete overview of everything that's happening, right? And then resort, right? Put the pieces kind of back together. So if it comes to therapy, all of that doesn't really matter, right? It'll make the person might feel comfortable, right? If you have then, something that a life coach is not a friend. if that makes sense.
Right. But I mean that right there is a structure of tailored type of direction. That's what I'm talking about. So you've set a specific level of constraints because that is most effective, and that's what is marketable about your mindfulness app. It separates it from others. So
Yeah, I know, but but the problem I have there, if people hear that they have to let go of everything, they're going to freak out. They're not going to want to do it. So you're going to have to sneak that in from behind. You got to be really sneaky as a therapist. I tell you, it's not that easy. You can't just like, oh, the person comes to you first hour and you're like, you got to let go of everything. That person's going to be like, what? You must be out of your freaking mind. Goodbye. Here, your $100. I'm never coming back. You got to be sneaky with those
I mean, the other part is like, it's, depending on the career field that you're in, it's good to have a record that you are a competent, sane, rational, and well-thinking and organized human being, right? And like the journaling and such is proof and evidence of that. That's the reason I have a psychologist, because of basically I was facing a divorce situation, and I needed to substantiate that I think through things normally and rationally, and that I am not prone to extreme reaction or whatever. And that's why that occurs. So that the purpose of a life coach can be more than just looking for therapy or trying to deal with psychological malady. It can just be affirming of the practices and verifying what you're already doing in life that is already working for you. And that also provides you, like you end up creating a journal that substantiates your choices over time, which is also important. In certain circumstances, it is. But yeah, Rutro, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on this data thing and the whole privacy. Okay, so we're gonna be doing everything sort of local, but where are the preferences gonna be set? I mean, and when you log in, like usually when you log into an app, it sort of knows everything sort of about you, so you're not redoing this every time. I mean, is it gonna fetch your JSON thing or your file on your local, or how's it gonna know about you and everything and
Should be cached locally. That's my opinion.
cache locally?
That's my opinion.
Okay.
But I mean,
Alisher just deployed.
there's other ways to approach
Yep,
that.
Alisher just deployed. I saw it. I saw the confetti, Alisher. I saw it. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, those are things definitely, Kurt, what you said is super important, right? Because it's not like the person comes and you're doing everything wrong, right? But yeah, when the person steps back, the person will probably see, oh, this is actually good what I'm doing. This is actually, this is the way I need to be going. And then just having the LLM support in that matter is just very important, right? It's
Well, validating that it exists, because otherwise there's no external any record that anything that you're doing exists.
Mm.
Like, do you exist? How do you prove that you exist? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's at a certain point, there is that aspect of asking you to prove who you are and what you do and why you do it. And that having some tools that do that can be very important. And that actually ends up, when you go to get your clearance, those are things that are asked. So yeah, I mean, a coach could do that, and then additional to that, the aspect of mentorship as well. And it could be another issue of this life coach that is a higher level that does more than just a basic coaching and gets into like career counseling and that kind of thing.
Yep. Mm.
Because I mean, I've had experience doing that. I was working with my son, and we were going through with a model, and putting in the different things that um, he would like to do in the future, and looking at the output recommendations, and then looking at how do you actually implement that over time. And it was really amazing to see the model make an effort. That like there's no guarantee that that 100% would work, but it certainly was better than what I had when I was the same age, right? Like there was no even a marginal roadmap as to you know uh, what you could do or who you could contact to help you to get closer to achieving the thing you wanted to do, right? And that's another aspect of these models in potential, like from life coach into career counsel, that's possible.
Yeah, that's super interesting for sure. That can go in numerous directions. What we're figuring out right now. It's yeah, it's definitely.
Well, if the mindfulness app, the client is always saying, "I hate my job. I hate my job." Like I think the model's going to have to make a recommendation about potential jobs that this person could look for, or avenues, or routes, or direction, or something, because them hating their job is such it's such a burden, I guess.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you have a foundation where the person is in tune, then these questions, the person will be able to answer these questions all by themselves. You know what I mean? So if the person gets to a point of realization, then the person will know, well, this job is a shitty job and I am not going to do it anymore. You know what I mean? But of course, if a person comes to the app and is completely confused because of the job, then that should probably be the basis of the whole mindful therapy, whatever you want to call it, right? Because if the person then, I don't know how we should do that. That's then a question of how do we set the questions up? What are the questions going to be that the person will have to answer before the therapy begins? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think those questions better than all of us. But those are the things I'm trying to like. I think that's what the useful part of this app
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, because if the person is coming to the app because it's completely confused because of the job, then yeah, you're right. That should somehow be the basis of the whole thing, because that's the start of everything. I am pissed because of my job and I can't sleep anymore. My boss is getting on my case. I get too much work. No one acknowledges me. You know how it goes. Blah, 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 blah. I just had a talk with someone yesterday just because of that. That was exactly the topic. I do everything right. I always do more work than I'm supposed to do, and they're not acknowledging me, and I'm done. I feel sad, but I need to pay my rent. Those are talks that I have on a regular basis. So yeah, that's something to consider, right? Where do we pick the person up? Because you need to kind of pick the person up where the person stands, right? Like you said, some people have issues, they're going through divorce. Other person has an issue because they cheated on someone and they just can't, they have issues with that because they were dishonest. Other people have issues because, their partner cheated on them, but they don't want to leave they can't handle it, but they also feel very, very shattered if they would leave their partner. They're very, very attached and very, there are all kinds of scenarios. Yeah.
This goes back to my data thing. Or maybe I'm not asking the question, or I don't know. It seems like you need to have memory. I mean, wouldn't it be really sort of crappy if you've gone on and on and on and, they just don't know about your divorce. Like,
Oh,
dummy, I already
no.
told you about this.
Rutrow, the thing is that the user has to write a journal. That is the memory. And that stuff, what's in the journal, right? We have to guide the user to use this journal because that is basically the memory. That's how we
Okay, that's what
I'm
I'm
thinking, right? That's how we
Okay.
overcome, right? Or just take a shortcut to memory, I guess. Yeah, I
Okay.
guess. Yeah.
And so that's the journal and that's
Well,
the JSON. And so every time you come in, it goes and grabs that and it just basically
yeah, well, I
digests
mean, you
that.
have to
And then,
before you can initiate, like before you can close your session out, you should be required to save that JSON, and then you submit that JSON at the next session.
okay,
So
okay. That's the
you
part that
have
I'm missing.
you have your private secure file which you can encrypt. You know, that that's the way I would approach it, but maybe Alistair has another way or somebody else has another suggestion. Because it's like the client data needs to be secure, and and to me secure means like they handle it. Uh, I I just like people say with clouds are complicated, right? But if you have the file yourself, you can put it on an SD card in an encrypted format, and it's not online. It's sandboxed and not online is the safest, truthfully.
Yeah. So that was the part that I was sort of missing. I mean, because otherwise it's like Groundhog Day. You're just starting over and over with this thing, right? So it has to have some
Yeah,
kind of history. It has to have, yeah.
the client needs to be responsible for maintaining their history, and that if you're serious about doing life coaching and you're doing this, then you'll go through that one step at least, and especially if it's about your client, your security of your data. I mean, I know that puts the risk of losing data, but you can always have a section inside the model, or inside the thing. It says, if you have your file and you want to make a backup copy and put it onto disk in an encrypted format, we recommend that, or something like that. There are different ways to back up your data, so that like if you lose a phone or you lose something, that you don't lose 3 years worth of information or 5 years worth of information or something like that.
And then would you format or somehow format the journaling, I guess, as
Well,
well?
yeah, I mean, that would be, if it's in JSON format, then it's, that's already formatted. Like your the model, there's going to be an
It
entry.
could fly through that in no second. Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah,
old way
right.
thinking. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I got
And
that
then
piece.
an
Thank you.
output related to a journal entry would then go within that JSON too. So the model, if it has direction or output, would also be in there. So that would give you back and forth exchange. Like, this is what the model recommended. This is your journal entry. This is the model recommendations and scheduling
Yeah, and it would have a
and
time
calendar.
kind of thing, a
Right,
flow as well, right? Like
right.
something over time, you could
And
see, oh my
and here's
God,
your
this person is
conversation
getting
from
more
the session.
anxious.
Yeah, here's your
Yeah.
conversation from the session. Here's your, I mean, I don't know how, and that's a good question for Alistair. Like, how far what the scope of something like that is. Like, what
Yeah,
are
it's
your
sort of this
limitations?
long-term memory-ish thing, right? Memory.
How big of a JSON can you have? Like, we already kind of see that with Bookify. Like, there's a limit on the size of the JSON that you can process for sanity, right? Right. So at a certain point, you're probably going to parse and make multiple files, right? And again, this technology is constantly changing. So there may be updates to the app that allow for the user to identify a zip file that contains 20 JSONs, and those JSONs don't exceed 50 megabytes, right? Or 5 megabytes. I don't know what. Alistair, what was that size? Do you remember?
Well, typically the size is the Next.js limit. And we're not really in Next.js. And, if you're really trying to store data, if you're trying to store data securely, just use Firebase. Don't even do it locally. If you want your users to have data across several devices, use Firebase. Simple. Secure. Google. used by 90% of all apps.
Yeah, we touched on that last week. Yep.
And it actually looks like I can't really deploy this to Vercel right now because it's not really a static website. So I think what I'm gonna do is by next week, I'll probably have this built out. I'll build this out for iOS and Android so everybody can try.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's probably the reason, right? Because is the reason because we're using Flutter? Is that the reason?
Yeah, and Vercel only supports like a certain amount of frameworks, so we could always launch this somewhere else. Like Netlify, it looks like AI Tutor was recommending Netlify. We could try that next week as well. But I'll have like a demo where both an iOS user and an Android user can download it.
Can you do me a favor? Because I don't have it on, my, I didn't update the project. Yeah, I already told you that. So when you, bring up the simulator, can you do a screenshot so that I can share that?
Oh yeah, actually, if I run the simulator, you can screenshot inside the simulator. But I can also screenshot when I deploy this to my phone. And I'm probably gonna have to deploy this to one of the pixels we have in the office because Pixel 8, Pixel 9, I'm having trouble opening certain apps.
Okay. Yeah, just that I can share it.
I couldn't even open Google the other day.
Yeah, so I can share where we are in the process, how it looks.
Is it possible to use artifacts to recode the application into a web app using Next.js or something like that?
I mean, I'm sure it is, but it's going to be extremely time
I was
consuming.
about to say, that's a lot of work.
I was just wondering if there was like a fast way to do that.
That's just not our goal. Our goal is to have an app. And once you start recoding into Next.js, that's a website.
Yep.
It's a web app. It's not really an app. It's not even a progressive web app. Just the Next.js website.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's the reason why we're using Flutter, so that it can really be, displayed on all devices without any issues.
Native, yeah. So it'll be native for Android and at the same time also native for iOS.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to build iOS and Android and distribute it to you guys than turn this into Next.js.
Yeah.
And if you want something that's like like an end-to-end solution for everything, honestly, just use PHP. If you want something that does everything from storing data, interacting with the database, being responsive, being dynamic, just use PHP.
Is that how like the X web app is built in PHP?
The what?
The X's web app version. Like there's the Android version of X.
I'm not sure what they're doing with their web app. I'm not sure what they're doing with their web app. For a long time, their app used to just be a web view. So it used to just be like their website in an app wrapper. I'm not sure what they're doing now. But PHP is Facebook.
Yeah, it definitely has a website look though. There's a look and feel. So I can see the point.
Let's see. Oh, also, I was playing around with the calendar, and just so you guys can see how far we've got with it. It's a lot more readable now. It's okay. There's a lot of fiddling that needs to go into it, just like you guys said. Being more specific, being more customizable, maybe even having the user edit individual entries in a schedule. But I think MVP wise, we're getting there, step by step. And there's another thing I need mobile to test is this local state, right? Because it relies on Flutter packages that are optimized for mobile. So they're not really optimized for web. Web is a good way to test. But at the end of the day, you want this to be an app because then you're getting that free SEO through the App Store, right? There's billions of websites out there. There's millions of apps. So you're putting yourself in a smaller circle to be able to be discovered.
Oh, that's interesting. See, that would be a advantage to having a app, right? So
Yep.
So yeah, let me add that to my newsletter because I didn't have that one. See? So you have the chance of more discoverability if you are using, if you're using this going through the Android store or whatever it's called, Play Store or whatever it's called. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, there's benefits to the process of having, to go through the motions and putting it in the App Store and the Play Store.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, of course, that's why people are, yeah, it actually makes total sense because that's why many are doing it, right? Because they're just in this framework of apps and in the App Store. And we all know that people that, are on their phone and stuff, they go to the App Store most of the time. There's always
How long does it take to get approved, or what's that process look like if you want to get it, on the App Store, Google
well, you
or
Well,
Apple?
go ahead.
step number one is you have to pay the money each year. For Apple, you got to pay them like $100 to $200 every year. For Android, you got to pay them like $25 a year. And then step two is to go to Flutter and build it out for each platform. And then you have to go in, you have to customize each one, right? So for example, Android, you're gonna have to customize icons, you're gonna have to get screenshots, you're gonna have to start filling out all of the descriptions, all the promotional material, and then you submit for review. And then you might get accepted, you might get rejected, you might have some back and forth where they point out the things you need to fix. And the same with Apple. Apple is the same process. You set the icons. That's of course after you pay them. And of course, if you have a Mac, otherwise you can't build for Apple. But yeah, you build it out, and then you go through the same motions. You fill out the description, screenshots, and then if your app is rejected, you have a little bit of back and forth with them. And there's many reasons your app could be rejected. You really gotta read what they tell you. For example, the biggest thing that they don't like is having a UI that overlaps a little bit, right? If they don't like your UI, they're not gonna accept your app. If your UI has too many things, if it looks a little busy, they're just gonna be like, "This UI looks busy. You don't deserve to be in the store." Apple's a little mean. Android a little more lax, a little bit easier to build for and publish.
Hopefully they're not like X subscriptions and things of that nature 2 years later or whatever. I'm just joking.
They are worse. You pay the $100 a year, and if you don't pay the next year, your app is gone. Apple is probably one of the worst, like in terms of trying to interact with as a developer. Probably one of the worst companies.
Yeah, it's why I was thinking about, coding it over into a web app format. So it's, like it's not a website in the traditional sense of like a splash page is actually designed for reactive for mobile, in the same way that X is deployed and has all of the additional functions. As a matter of fact, you can on Android, you can't even get into the producer section and other things unless you use the web app. So yeah,
Oh yeah, like the X app on
even
Android has some weird issues. Like for example,
yeah,
a live stream, like a video live stream on Android, you don't see it at the top. If there's a live stream of somebody you're following on iOS, you do see the live stream on top in red. It just, I don't know what it is. But Apple's also deprecating a lot of things. So sometimes they give you access to certain parts of the phone, of the iPhone, but now they're starting to deprecate it. So, for example, I heard Spotify. Spotify had an integration with volume controls in iOS. Apparently, Apple has deprecated that. They got rid of that volume controls API. So now Spotify can't even control the volume on iOS properly. So it's things like that that make you not want to develop for Apple.
That really sucks because you're sitting there thinking, damn this Spotify, and really it has nothing to do with them. They're just confined. Yeah.
And then there's more to it because let's say you want to charge for this app a subscription, right? Both of these companies, Apple and Google, will require you to integrate it with their subscription and payment methods, right? But then on top of that, now you have to change your pricing because you need to account for that 30% that they're going to take from you. So are you going to eat that 30% or is subscription going to cost 30% more? If you have an app that, let's say, that works on Android, iOS, and web, right? For example, one of the reasons why we can't really publish an AI tutor or Pixio app is because we can't just have like Stripe integration there and log in with Google. Now they're like cracking down on that, right? So if we were to publish an iOS app, we would need to charge about 30% more for each subscription tier in order to account for it being on iOS or Android. Twitch does the same thing. You know, if you go to Twitch, if you subscribe to a channel on Twitch on the web, it's cheaper than subscribing to a channel on Twitch on the phone app, which is such an insane inconsistency. It makes people not want to use your app. Like, why would I want to pay $3 more to do something in an app when I can do it for cheaper on the web?
yeah, that's where I've heard people exploring WebXR and WebGPU to be able to build. I know WebXR is traditionally used for building out 3D environments, but there's a way to build 2D, 3D spatial as web app on a mobile device, which is kind of interesting. I was exploring that a couple years ago, last year, I think.
Yeah, you know, the only thing is WebXR, Web 3D stuff is extremely limited in comparison to something like if you were to, let's say, build an augmented reality app using Apple's AR kit or using their reality, reality editor, one of those things, or even using Unity. You know, once you build for the web, you're limited by your browser, by the web. That's your limitation in compute. Versus if you build like a native AR app, it's gonna work a lot better. It's gonna have a lot better tracking. But once again, you have to pay Apple. You got to pay the Apple tax, so to say, of being in the App Store and trying to make money in the App Store.
Yeah, it was. We weren't looking at full immersion. We were looking at just 2D 3D interface, which is, when I say 3D, it's basically being able to drag things around with your finger, kind of like when you do with a astronomy application on a iPhone or a Android. You can move things around in non-traditional ways that you're limited by, with traditional 2D navigation. So there's potential there to Unreal, offers some of the structure. Not Unreal, Unity actually, it's the one that has it for interface design. And they have some examples on the website. I thought that was interesting. I didn't dig into it, very deeply, but it's it looks really interesting in the standpoint of building out web apps that take advantage of the 3D processing that's on a local device, like on an Android.
Yeah,
To
so
do more things
that's a
that
great
Rich said.
solution.
Go ahead.
That's a great solution. So in that case, Unity kind of almost acts as similar to Flutter, right? Because you'll take Unity, you can build something in Unity for mobile, and then you can build it out for both Android and iOS. And yeah, that does take, I guess, take advantage of the full 3D AR capabilities of the device. But as soon as you build it for the web, it's that's it. You're limited by the web. You're limited by how big your models can be. You're limited by the kinds of animations you can have, the kinds of shaders you can have, and all that. I think something we actually noticed when we were building our little 3D websites, right, is that React Fiber and 3JS, they had these limitations, limitations that you typically will not see in Unity if you're building for native Android or iOS.
Yeah, but even then, like the innovation, like the amount of change, the amount of quality you can get in a web environment, even with those limitations, are still novel and beyond what everybody's currently familiar with, right? So it's an opportunity, I think, in some ways, but it's a difficult. There's just not a lot of documentation or support, and because not a lot of people are doing it.
A lot of people were doing it like 6 years ago, like 2017, 2018. It was very, very prominent. But even now, for example, like um, Google is deprecating ARKit.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like Google, I think it was called AR Core or something like that, and now they're deprecating it. I think they actually deprecated a while ago. So, for example, I have a Pixel, and on the Pixel, we used to have AR built into our cameras. So we can go to an AR playground and start bringing in different 3D characters. You were able to like take a selfie with Iron Man using AR, and I think after like Pixel 4, they got rid of it. So it's not even AR is just not really that popular of a space. But there's a lot to be done with AR. If you ever want to work with AR, check out something like Vuforia. Vuforia is extremely comprehensive in terms of AR, SDK, and Unity. They're very well integrated into Unity, especially.
AR is poised to take off, though, right? Like with these new glasses that are being released, not just Apple, but
Glasses have been Glasses has been around. Like HoloLens has been around since 2016. Magic Leap has been around since 2018. And we've seen companies fail and just die in the AR space.
Well, I'm really familiar, and I've talked to Scoble about it a lot, extensively, and we had this discussion the other day about new glasses that are going to be coming out in the next year, and they're literally AR glasses. They're not goggles or pass through. It's going well beyond HoloLens. So at that point, then like things like your mindfulness app potentially have the ability to cast things into your visual space, or give you contextual information in your environment. So I mean, I think that's going to come before we get into the full 3D immersive. Like you saw, like a lot of the 3D immersive stuff has crashed and failed horribly.
Not even immersive stuff. HoloLens is not immersive. HoloLens is holographic. It uses photon rays to essentially project projections onto several layers of glass in front of you. And I mean, that died. They had a HoloLens 2, and afterwards, the whole team, they just got rid of them. That's not a pass-through app. And even if you're looking at Apple Vision Pro, I mean, we're 6 months down the line of Apple Vision Pro, and it's a dead product. There's nothing on Apple Vision Pro. I have not picked up Apple Vision Pro since week 2 of getting Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, that's a pretty serious problem, isn't it? Releasing a product and they don't have any support in terms of applications and driving user.
It's not that. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's in no way accessible. And even if they come out with something for like the Meta Ray-Bans, right? This or like Snapchat spectacles. Even if they come out with something in that price point, it's still not really gonna pick up in the mainstream. Not yet, at least. 10 years ago they said this is 10 years away, and it really isn't, because the biggest innovation in the space has been Apple Vision Pro, and that's an overglorified VR headset.
But 10 years ago, we didn't have models like we have in tools like artifacts. So I think it might change quickly. There's a chance.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I hope, right? We've spent a lot of money on this technology. I hope it takes off, and we didn't just throw whatever it is, $3,500 down the drain. But who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Apple only, though. Like I think there's going to be a number of competitors that are, up and coming. At least that's what I saw from the show that they had with the XR lens, and what do they call them? Basically showing the micro OLEDs in all the different types of displays that will work with immersive headsets, and then the scale of production going up so that the price of the displays is going down. Right. So all of those factors including the miniaturization of some of the components and lower power consumption may lead to devices that can do what we would like them to be able to do, and that including like having a straight up set of like Ray-Ban type glasses that actually have augmented reality, because currently the Meta ones, all they are is recording video and have a model, I think, that talks. There's no visual.
Yeah, no, there isn't. They're just sunglasses with a camera and speakers.
Yeah,
and that's the phone. But that's where Meta's going. So if you were to bet on anybody, it's probably Meta, because they're already probably majority of the immersive market. And they're also
isn't Apple Sony technically? Like, is that correct? Like a lot of the components for the headset for the Apple Vision Pro is Sony products.
Oh, probably. I mean,
the cameras and a lot of the processors
probably.
and all of the other.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Meta is also a lot of Sony components plus the Snapdragon SoC.
That's what I kind of see happening here is, eventually, Sony and other ones are going to start out on their own. They'll introduce a product in like Japan and then China.
They kind of already are. Like, I know Sony's backing. I don't know if you've heard of Big Screen. They're backing Big Screen a lot. They have a very lightweight headset. Almost the form factor of just sunglasses. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's just not gonna quite take off just yet. It could be the content, it could be the form factor, it could be the price point. There's a lot of things contributing to it not really being a consumer friendly product yet. And really, the only company that did figure it out is Meta. Because if we look at something like HTC Vive, for example, HTC Vive was about 40% more expensive than the Oculus originally, and that's what really drove them into the ground. Because then they came out with Vive Pro, which was even more expensive, and then they came out with Vive Index, which was again more expensive than Quest, and ultimately they just lost it simply because they were too expensive. Great product, fantastic product, probably better than the Quest in terms of tracking, screen resolution, processing, integration. It had direct integration into Steam, so you could really just turn any game into a VR game. But at the end of the day, it was just too expensive, and people went with Quest. It's
I
hard.
guess
It's hard
in the
to
end, it
see.
has to, yeah. In the end, there has to be something, a use or, a benefit, like an extremely like productive, useful benefit, right? Of the product. Games isn't enough, I think.
It's not enough, no, because if we look at Meta, they're losing money like by the boatload every year in the XR sector. It's one of their biggest losses. They're investing the most in that sector, and they're losing the most in that sector as well. They're yet to make any sort of profit there. And in terms of productivity, it's not viable because it just doesn't seem healthy, does it? You're putting the screen even closer to your face. You're putting these components that heat up even closer to your face as opposed to having just a regular screen.
What do you think about projectors in that regard? Using augmented reality projection and
Expensive.
projection. Expensive.
Augmented reality projector, like where it would project an entire screen for you, like a few things that you can interact
Well,
with.
sometimes, yeah, some of the more laser like projectors, or there's like a variety of different projectors, and you can actually set up an array in a room, and you can have a camera, or a number of cameras in there that are machine vision, and as you interact in your environment, the projections change. Really basic versions of that are like, some restaurants project things onto the plates and have little animated things that happen. But
yeah, but that's just a gimmick.
yeah, less than a gimmick would be, an interactive environment where, as you're working in the environment, that you have changes that are projected onto your desktop or your working space. That's just a thought. Been thinking about that for a while. I mean, there's a lot of feasibility issues in that, but it would be you don't have something on your head, and the visualizations are coming into the environment around you, and every surface and every object becomes digitally interactive as well, with a potential multifunction. So, like,
But now what? Now you have to
Yeah.
set up some sort of 3D mapping with some other device that's not a headset, right?
cameras, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
Now
so
you got cameras everywhere.
you're just going through the same motions without the comfort of having it on your head and moving from room to room.
Right now, you have to have cameras in every room and projectors in every room. So, different set of trouble, different set of prices. But the cameras are coming down. The projectors are coming down. Cameras are already really cheap.
Have you seen
But
that ABBA show? The Voyager or something like that, where they had a holographic show.
I think I did see a little bit of that, but obviously not. I mean, it's seeing the translation of it is not the same as seeing there in person, because you're not seeing the parallax as much. Like when you're there in person, when you move your head, there should be some shifting. I don't think that picks up in the camera as much.
We're so off tangent to like augmented reality.
Well, I mean, this is that's the future of application building. Like it gets to a point where your apps are AI enabled, and then your apps are multimodal, and then working inside your environment, right? Your virtual assistant actually becoming more virtual, not just a
Yeah, but
yeah.
that's a ways away. Like for example, Vision Pro, the most advanced headset, quote unquote. The best they'll be able to do right now is turn this app into a flat screen that you can put like next to your actual screen. Um, that's majority of the apps there. That's majority of the apps on HoloLens. It's just like another flat screen where you can have like 50 different flat screens around you. Um, I mean, I can have 50 different tabs open. It's not really much of a difference there. Um, difference is comfort. I don't need a headset for that. And again, it all takes coding. Even the AI part. Let's say this was like a 3D model that's actually moving around in your environment, that's actually speaking. There's a lot of coding involved in that to be able to make it talk, make it move and animate properly. Um, or just even displaying a 3D model is it's quite a lot of work, especially on the Vision Pro. And then having to figure out all sorts of optimizations because you don't have unlimited memory on these devices. These devices are actually less powerful than your cell phone because they're trying to render like 5 or 6 times higher resolution images. So there's a lot of limitations in that sector that I would say is just I don't know. We've been in the AR space for almost a decade, right? We've been in the AR space since the original um, CV1 Oculus Rift, and it's made a lot of progress in terms of being mobile. It's made a lot of progress in terms of having great content on it in terms of gaming. It has not made a lot of progress in terms of productivity.
It's really unfortunate too, because there's so many things you can do.
Apple Vision Pro, their biggest thing is you connect to a Mac in like 2 clicks. You look at a Mac, if it's your Mac, you can click to make that screen a big screen in the headset, but then it's just another screen. So it's yeah. But
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
I hear what you're saying. It's sad that the state is, but I'm just saying that between what we're looking at with these AI tools and being able to work with really complicated functions inside of Unreal Engine, or even with or Unity, and then WebXR, WebGPU, and some of the things where you can take advantage of the device functions there's some opportunities there. That's always kind of trying to get at in terms of application design, in making a novel application design that isn't like all the other apps that you've ever used. And I'm thinking that's coming rather quickly. I keep seeing little hallmarks, and I think I've sent Nick and Ross and you some of the stuff I've seen with with the like even the Shopify animation, like all of the icons or objects are animated and then have some spatial relation, so you can actually look at them slightly off axis. Have you seen that? So it was released in the last like week or so. Right, it was last week sometime that I
I've seen
saw.
different like e-commerce projects that have 3GS Fiber and React 3D integrated into them.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was really interesting because every like you could look at any one of the products and kind of drag it around seamlessly. And there was no preload time for all the product images, so that was really amazing. So those are the kind of things I want to look into, and I'll just get a better understanding of like, what does that mean for the future of interface design and in application delivery. I mean, obviously, some things you don't need to do, right? Because they're not making it any better for the end user. But if you can add visual appeal and functionality and utility, even with a 2D device, it'd be pretty amazing, I think. But like you said, this like there's server support and such that has to be done, and the more complicated the interface, the larger the support needed for the servers, and it just becomes more expensive in the end. Where you can just build a very basic app in Flutter, and users can be like using it really quickly.
Yeah, that's the goal. I guess that's the goal when you first start out. You want to get to an MVP as fast as possible, and then you can start building out these features. Like I would love to have some sort of an augmented reality addition to it, where hey, maybe you even simulate some sort of an office space where it fully takes over your screen, right? That would be like awesome. Or it simulate some sort of a mindfulness space where you can meditate. I would love to create that. Um, but there's just that's an easy integration, right? Because there, all you're doing is creating like a 360 space with nothing in there, with just some nice meditation music and a timer or something. That's an easy integration. But beyond that, once you start getting into all these other things, and even starting to get into something that's realistic in terms of visuals, like the metahumans that we looked at a few weeks ago. Remember where you guys saw the copy of Nick? You can't put that into a Vision Pro. It will melt. Like my computer struggles to render that. That's cinema quality asset. So getting to where you're streamlining that and you're able to have that on every device is hard, because I've tried putting that on the Meta Quest. I've tried actually, instead of using the Quest, using like the wired version, right, where you wire into your computer and you run it from your desktop, and it still struggles. But hopefully, I would love to have a metahuman that you can interact with in a Vision Pro.
I think we would all love that, huh? That would be really awesome. That would be awesome for sure.
I saw this during demo from Germany of it was very much like MetaHuman, and it was reported to be very small, but I haven't seen much since then from that company. and I'll keep an eye out. If I see something, I'll pass it your direction, because there's innovation occurring like all the time, and I think that goal of compressing it and getting it into being lightweight with a high quality render is a target. So you can actually do the full embodiment in any environment in high resolution.
I think actually Apple themselves are getting closer to it, right? With the avatar that you can make on the Vision Pro, where
Yeah.
you can talk to it through FaceTime, but even that is limited. You don't see the whole body. You just see like a frame of a person in relatively 3D space. You don't see like their full 360.
I have a feeling that NVIDIA is working on something. I'll have to go look through their documents, but there was something that I saw that leads me to believe that NVIDIA has something in that direction.
Oh, guys, I'm actually gonna have to go in a few minutes. So
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for all your time, Alisher, and this is awesome work today.
thank you. And yeah, I love discussion about VR, AR. We're all up in that space. We've been there probably the longest. That's like the space where we started. So it's always nice to have a discussion about that. Maybe we'll have like an AR VR space live stream where we look at different devices. We'll see.
Oh, that would be awesome. And I just learned today of the limitations. I wasn't even aware of that. I really wasn't. So this is a super interesting topic. So we should do that.
I think between this and getting into Unreal, we'll do something like that.
Do you guys hear me? No, huh?
Yeah,
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, because I don't see, it's so strange. I'm talking, but I don't see the purple wave thingy, the waveform. I
Me
can't
neither.
see it at all.
Me neither.
Okay, good. Well, okay.
Yeah, with what NVIDIA had talked about with their NIMS system and digital twinning, if that actually becomes the watershed and hits the lower tiers of consumer products and ends up being integrated into future or even updates into the tensor core system, drivers, there's some things that could happen that would do what we're talking about, or allow for building and rendering on smaller machines of things like metahumans that are compressible, that end up being like a puppet that you can then have a virtualized avatar that does syncing to script real time. I mean, that there's a lot of complexity in that. We'll see, but I just keep seeing these things that I'm like, what? That happened? Like every week, there's something that's like I didn't expect that to occur. So it's exciting. Let's put it that way. Like there's more innovation that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years than in the prior 10 in a lot of ways.
Well, Alisher, I really want to thank you for your time and for everyone else's time also. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and going through all of these steps. And thanks for all the ideas that you guys had. This is what just makes the magic work, right? If we share our ideas and our thoughts, and that's what really, we come to really cool stuff then. So I want to thank you all. Yeah, I still got work to do tonight. I got to work on my webpage. That's going to be fun. Or on our webpage. Yeah, Kirk, I'm doing the learn more section now. And I guess that both of us were going to have to put a short bio on it. So, yeah, if, yeah, we can talk
I've got
anytime if you
I got a bio ready to go. So let me know.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'll
A
finish
few.
it and then I'll